He's fine.
What's that?
These ones are good. I had one.
Hey, can you hear us now, Marjorie, Drew?
He's like fine with them. Yes.
Perfect.
Okay,
Perfect, we're all set then.
good,
Great, thank you.
nice, welcome.
So we're all good to go.
He needs just to turn this on, I guess.
I make a point to be home for dinner every night.
Yeah, okay. We all set?
Yep.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Good evening, everybody. I'm going to open up the Conservation Commission meeting for Thursday, February 20th, 2025. Tonight, we are meeting in the Wacoya Meeting Room, Mashpee Town Hall, 16 Great Neck Road North. We are being broadcast live on local cable channels 8 and 1072, streamed live on the Town of Mashpee website, and the meeting is also a hybrid remote Zoom meeting. So before we begin, if you would like to join me in a pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Let's start with a moment of silence. Okay, thanks. We'll start with public comment, and this would be for anyone that wants to address the commission tonight on a topic that's not listed on our agenda. Is there anybody here to see us? No? Nobody online?
Mr. Chairman, I just have a question from that general comment.
Yes, go ahead.
Have we heard anything from DEP on Regulation 25? Our most recent draft?
I'm not, I don't quite understand the question.
For Chapter 172, Regulation 25, Draft 7.
Right, draft 7, are you referring to DEP or legal counsel?
I'm referring to DEP.
No, they don't have our drafts.
No, but weren't they going to submit their own?
Oh, you're talking about their regulations.
Yes, sorry.
Right, right. No, there's been nothing that's come out of the state at all in regards to either the stormwater regulations or the floodplain.
Why am I not surprised?
Still waiting, yep.
Yeah, just wanted to make sure I didn't miss anything. Okay, thank you.
Maybe tomorrow. Okay.
Okay.
Let's go to the first hearing. This is for 42 Sandy Way, Charles E. and Michelle C. Torget. This is a proposed septic system upgrade. Representative is GeoCape Environmental Consultants. This project has been continued from December 12th, January 9th, January 23, and February 6th. And the applicant has requested a continuance, and I can explain briefly that they have secured an engineering firm. They've begun work on moving that system out to the front where we had suggested that that would be the best location. But because of the weather and schedules and everything else, they're not ready. So they're asking to have us continue it to a date certain. We're not going to put the date on it. We'll just leave that open. Hopefully the weather will break and they'll be able to get before us soon, sometime in March. I know that the owners want to get this thing resolved. So that's where we are. So I would accept the motion for the continuance.
So moved.
Thank you, Steve.
Second.
Thank you, Alex. Any further questions or discussion? None? Let me take a roll call vote. Steve?
Yes.
Alex?
Yes.
Sandy?
Yes.
Rich?
Yes.
Marjorie?
Yes,
And I vote yes as well, so that motion carries unanimously. Okay. The next hearing is for 7 Tuspockman Road, Timothy P. and Margaret C. Cunningham. This is a proposed septic system upgrade. Representative is Shea Environmental, and this is a RDA. Good evening, sir.
Hey, how
Your
you
name
doing?
for the record.
I'm Carmen Shea from Shea Environmental, and I'm here on behalf of the Cunninghams. And basically, they have a failed system, which currently has a septic tank and some failed flow diffusers. And we have proposed a new septic system to replace that. We're putting in a 1,500 gallon, well, actually, it's a bigger tank than that. It's a pump chamber combo. It's basically 1,500, 1,000 pump chamber combination. And only because the elevation of the pipe coming out of the house is so deep that we're having to pump up just to keep the system from being ridiculously deep. But not because of groundwater issues. We actually hadn't encountered groundwater during our perk test. So we're putting in a new tank pump combo. That's also going to be outfitted with a sledgehammer IA, so there'll be some hopefully nitrogen and phosphorus removal there. And then that's going to pump to the furthest point near Tuspecan Road that we can get, and we're putting in a 2-chamber system there. Basically, we're proximal to John's Pond. The tank itself is 121 feet from John's Pond, and then the leaching itself is 170, so we're pretty far away there. But we also have the Childs River, and so we're within 200 feet. The property is within 200 feet. The system is probably just about the edge of that 200-foot buffer. And that's pretty much it. We have no other wetlands or resource areas, I believe, that are going to be impacted, and I think we've done a pretty good job to protect public health and the environment here.
Okay, thank you. Questions from commissioners?
Carmen, is the driveway a stone or a paved driveway?
It's a partially paved, and then there's like a stone leg off of it where the tank is sited. The area that we're working in is going to be in a lawned area. There's going to be no change to topography, so the pump chamber is strictly to elevate underground, not above ground. It's more a Title V issue because you can't have 6 feet or more of cover over a system.
Okay, so we have the driveway down at the pump chamber, then you have the driveway coming in off the road where the SAS is located. So is that a paved driveway there in the stone, or what are you going to do to replace the driveway?
We're going to be a little bit into that driveway.
Okay,
So they're going to have to probably patch it or, do some repair work there. I don't think they anticipated on really changing it. So yeah, essentially you see where my perk test is there.
Okay.
And then we're actually forward of the perk test towards Tuspequin a little more.
Towards the road.
And yeah, because of the width of the property, you'll be a little bit into that driveway, probably 2 or 3 feet.
Okay, so that answers my question. So just open grass, so you're just going to plant grass back in disturbed areas and just repair the driveway
Yes.
and asphalt? Okay.
Yeah, and there's no runoff that's going towards any of the resource areas, as a result of this. I mean, we're essentially, what you see there for topography is going to remain.
Yeah, it's pretty flat there. So. Okay, great, thank you.
Okay. Other questions? No? You good? Marjorie, any questions?
No, I'm good, thank you.
Okay. Let me go to the agents, Dan or Drew?
Nothing to add on my end. Pretty straightforward.
Okay, thank you. Members of the public that would like to comment or ask questions? Seeing none, I would accept the motion.
Make a motion for a negative determination for 7 Tuspequin Road.
Thank you, Steve.
Second.
Thank you, Alex. Motion made and seconded. Discussion by commissioners. Any last questions or concerns? Hearing none, I'll take a vote. Steve? Alex?
Yes.
Sandy?
Yes.
Rich?
Yes.
Marjorie?
Yes,
And I vote yes as well. That motion carries unanimously.
Thank you very much. Have a good night. And drive safely, please.
You as
yeah,
well.
be careful driving home.
Yes, I'm glad to be.
You're welcome to stay for the entire meeting if you'd like. Thought I'd ask. Okay, next hearing is 275 Quiniquisette Avenue, Southworth Mashpee Properties LLC. This is a proposed construction and maintenance of 14 single-family homes with paved driveway, sidewalk drainage systems, and associated utilities. Representative is Baxter Nye Engineering and Surveying. This is a notice of intent, DEP file number 433237. Good evening, sir.
Hello, good evening, everyone. For the record, Matthew Eddy, professional engineer with Baxter Nye Engineering and Surveying, representing Southworth Mashpee Properties LLC. I believe also on Zoom is Jack McElhenney, the attorney for Willow Bend, if he's needed. So what I would like to do is, I'm sure most of you, I know there's a few new members, but this has been a ongoing, long project. Again, we appreciate your working with us and patience and so forth. We're still working with Planning Board, but we're hopeful. We think we're just about there. We have going back to them on March 5th. But so with that, I've reviewed with Drew. What I'd like to do is just give you a quick recap of where the project is, what's submitted before you. We did submit full revised plans, which are dated, with a revision dated January 29, 2025. That's the entire set. All of the grading, utilities, et cetera, stormwater management have all been updated in the latest set. If you may recall, as we were going through Planning Board with the changes, we were trying to get to a point with Planning Board where we got to a layout that we felt was pretty much, I'll say, locked down, hopefully, before we started updating all of the additional detail behind it. So that all that has been done. That's been submitted to this commission. And I've also submitted a response letter addressing the original LEC comment letter from the very beginning of the project. A lot of those issues and comments, I think, have gone away. But so what I'll do is I'll just hit on the quick recap of the project changes and then quick highlights of the response letter that I submitted in response to LEC, and then be happy to answer any questions. And we obviously, this will be another continuance tonight, and I'll kind of fill you in on what we'll be doing between now and the next hearing, hopefully. So the project is now reduced on, if you could, Dan, maybe go to sheet 6.0. You want to open up the composite dated, the second one down. There you go. Yep, you got it. And go to sheet 6.0. That's the overall kind of master plan, mitigation plan. That's really probably the best plan I can point to as I kind of talk through. There you go. Keep going. A couple more. There you go. Up. Just went past. Did I go past 6.0. Look in the lower right one.
Yeah.
There you go. One more. There you go. Right there. Maybe just scroll up or zoom in. Yeah, so we can see.
Thank you.
Yep. Thanks. So the project, and again, you've heard some of these changes or most of these changes already, but just to recap, the project was initially submitted as 14 units. It's down to 12 units. There's been a significant reduction in wetland impact. If you remember, there was a proposed village green to the east of the project. That's been totally eliminated. I already kind of touched base on, we're working with Planning Board back in front of them on March 5th, and again, hopeful that we're going to get to a point of getting approval from the Planning Board is our hope. So with that, we have the overall wetland impacts are now reduced down to 191 square feet of impact to bordering vegetated wetland, and that area that's impacted is right there on Quiniquisette, which is, sorry, here, I'm having a hard time seeing that right there. That impact is solely due to, that's where the wetlands actually come up into the shoulder of Quiniquisette Road, the existing road. And what we're doing is we are grading a little bit there to capture that runoff. That's where it leaves the shoulder of the road and it goes directly into the wetlands. So we're intercepting that and then diverting it into that pretreatment forebay that is proposed just outside of the wetland area. That's the only reason for that BVW impact, and that is the only BVW impact in the project now. So again, that's not needed for the project, but it has been expressed by both this commission, I believe, and the Planning Board that they felt that that was a good, positive benefit for us to do that work to pick up the runoff off of Quiniquisette and provide the pretreatment prior to it going back into the wetland resource area. The other wetland impact is right here. That's about 700 square feet. I'm having a hard time on the angle here. I think it's right there if I'm pointing at it right. That is an isolated vegetated wetland, so it's not a BVW. I don't know if you've walked the site at all in the past in this, but it's basically, it looks, it's like it's a hole that from when they were harvesting sand for the bog is what it looks like. I mean, so there's really, I believe, little value there, and yet actually just from the residential use it's there. There's, I'll say yard debris, et cetera, in the area just from them using that backyard and so forth. So again, those are the two impacts that are left. And so again, BVW is 191 square feet. That's under the 500 square foot threshold with the Wetlands Protection Act. And then the IBW is at 746 square feet. So as we decrease significantly the wetland impacts, if you remember the initial submission, the bog restoration being proposed for mitigation was around 2 acres. That was as we went through the process over the past year and a half with Planning Board and with this commission, but we went from the 2 acres to up to 5 acres, and that increase in the mitigation of the bog was based on mitigation that was being provided in response to Planning Board comments. They were already, even at 2 acres, and I'll get into a little bit of the detail, but even at 2 acres, we're well in excess of the required mitigation under the Wetlands Protection Act and under the Mashpee Wetlands Bylaw. But part of this overall mitigation package to help address, nitrogen in the overall watershed, all the issues that are of concern with the different boards in the town. That was one of the additional mitigation aspects that was proposed to the planning board, going from the 2 acres to the 5 acres. So again, currently what you're seeing on the plan, the package that's before you, identifies bogs that are identified on that mitigation plan. I think I numbered them 1 through 5, I believe, which totals about 5.3 acres. And all along, wetland impact reduction significantly reduced while that was being performed. So what we're working with Planning Board right now, and Drew and I have talked at this at length, and it would be good to hear from the commission, and then even if there's a offline discussion that I know Drew has had with the planner, with the new planner, Brian, regarding the planning board comments and what the commission is looking for. The last hearing, Willow Bend is providing an overall mitigation package for this project. So if you think about it as one, pot of mitigation. It includes both a monetary contribution and a land contribution for affordable housing. And then it includes this 5 acres of bog restoration, which has a dollar value, a cost to that. What Planning Board brought up at our last hearing was that would it be possible, and they were considering having less bog mitigation, doing the minimum that we need to do. And I'm saying it's 2 acres that we need to do, and that's still in excess of what's required under your bylaw. Obviously subject to this commission's approval, and we've been saying that to the planning board all along. But what they're asking for is that 5 acres of bog mitigation has a cost. So we have a delta, let's say, between 2 acres as a minimum that will be absolutely done, and up to 5 acres. So there's a 3 acre delta there that has a cost that we've estimated at approximately $450,000. It's $150,000 per acre. So the planning board, and I'm going to say the town, so it's all the departments of the town, what does the town want to do? And Willow Bend agreed. They said it's, whatever the town decides, however they want to use those mitigation dollars, Willow Bend will, contribute those dollars, and then it's up to the different, agencies, commissions, boards, as to how those dollars want to be spent. What the planning board is looking at is that those monies for that delta between the 2 acres and the 5 acres on the bog mitigation, that it would be done towards nitrogen reduction projects, but basically sewer. And it would be done in this watershed. There's been discussion, but it would be through the town. with Willow Bend providing the funds, but there's been discussion on Pompanesett Ave. That's not going to be sewered under the town's comprehensive sewer plan. That they're looking at potentially extending sewer to that, and they would connect that to the Willow Bend wastewater treatment plant. And that's directly on Shoestring Bay. So those are the things that are being discussed. So whether it stays at 5 acres for the bog restoration, or goes down to 2 acres, and that delta of dollars gets applied to another mitigation aspect to help reduce nitrogen out of this watershed. So again, I think the benefit is still going to be there overall, but it's, again, Willow Bend has really kind of said, whatever is decided between the planning board and the conservation commission and other town stakeholders, they're happy to do whatever is decided on. So we're still kind of waiting on how that's going to play out with planning board. And again, I think it would, maybe this commission through Drew and through Dan with maybe some your thoughts and recommendations to the planning board to help us kind of get to the end goal here is our hope. So that's the main piece that's really kind of in play, I will say. And I think just real quick, I can hit real quick on the highlights on the response letter to LEC's comments. With all of the changes that have occurred in the project over the past year or so, many of the comments really become not applicable anymore. I think Drew can speak to this, but I believe he's on the same page with me on this. In my response letter, I commented on all of LEC's comments, just real quick hitting the higher highlights, I'll call them. There was a comment about the, over 5,000 square feet of BVW impact previously and how that applies to the Wetlands Protection Act and the Mashpee bylaw. That's now a moot point, that's gone. I think the one that is still, that remains, but I think is we definitely meet the criteria, and I believe Drew agrees as well, is the riverfront aspect. And there's a presumption of protecting the interests of the riverfront and the performance standards that you need to meet for a project. And the presumption here is because those are active bogs, your inner riparian zone, the inner 100 feet, and even more than that in some areas, but the inner riparian zone is devoid of the riverfront functions, protecting the interests of the riverfront aspect because it's a agricultural use as a cranberry bog. The bogs are mowed every year. It's not natural vegetation. There's fertilizer put in them, et cetera. So those riverfront areas are altered, and they're not protecting and they're not providing for the riverfront interests. So the presumption is, as part of this project, we're going to have some additional impact in the outer riparian, which is the 100 feet to the 200 feet, and we're restoring the inner riparian, which is the most sensitive zone, and this is all in line with the Wetlands Protection Act. And the restoration, even if we only do the 2 acres and not the 5, and the numbers I looked at just based on 2 acres of the restoration would be providing twice the amount of mitigation that's needed from the riverfront aspect. So that's identified in my letter. To me, that's probably one of the main items left just under the Wetlands Protection Act in response to LEC's comment, and that presumption, and getting to the point where both this commission and DEP agrees with that presumption based on the riverfront and the restoration of the riverfront. I also then provided some additional information about the riverfront. One, we meet the presumption, I believe, so there's other aspects that then would fall to the side as far as the riverfront performance standards, but I still highlighted a few other items that, just to show that, we're meeting additional aspects, even though we wouldn't need to. You have redevelopment of previously developed riverfront area, which this has obviously been impacted, as I just identified. And that there's another section in the Wetlands Protection Act having no adverse impact, again, because it's already disturbed and we're going to be restoring it. I believe that there's no adverse impact, and that we're having actually a positive impact on the riverfront area at the completion of this project. And then the rest of LEC's comments were, I think the rest of them were fairly, they all revolved around what I just talked about. There was one of the wetland flags, if you recall, we moved one of the wetland flags, which is up along Quiniquisette Ave. That was done. We did that, several months ago. There was an on-site meeting with that. That was in plans that were submitted to you previously. And then the last item is under the IVW impacts, under your Regulation 20. If we are impacting more than 300 square feet of a freshwater wetland, an IVW, wildlife habitat evaluation is required. So I did request in that letter a waiver of that. Fully, obviously, open to discussion and your thoughts, and if, we need to do it, we will. But the thought process was that again, if you go out there and if you look at that IVW, and I could even meet with you out there if you wanted to, you'll see what it is. It's very, very, very benign. And I believe with the restoration of the bogs, the creation and restoration of habitat is going to be very significant. And that was the reason for the waiver request on that. And so other than that, over the next month, I'm going to say, we'll be working, continue to work with Drew. We'll be sitting down with LEC, and we'll be working with DEP to just resolve all the final comments and hopefully wrap it up. And fingers crossed, we get a, positive nod from Planning Board on the 5th, and can hopefully bring this towards closure, hopefully, a positive closure. So that's all I have, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have. Obviously, again, continuance, would be requesting a continuance. We don't expect a vote tonight, obviously.
I have a question, Matt. This letter addressing the concerns from the initial peer review.
Yep.
The letter to us is February 13th. Is that when that went out to LEC as well, or did they get it earlier? Or?
Yeah, no, it just went out to them, so we haven't even sat down.
Okay, so you haven't heard back from them?
Yeah, we haven't sat down. Drew and I talked about that prior to, and we both agreed that it would be better. I wanted to update the commission, and then we're going to sit down with LEC over the next couple of weeks and kind of go through it and hammer through all this.
Because we'd want to get that final.
Yeah, no,
from that
absolutely, right.
before.
Yep.
My other question, you probably can't answer this. Wherever you end up, whether it's 2 acres or 5 acres of remediation in those bogs,
Yep.
let's say you're right in the middle, and you have 3 that you take care of, 3 acres, and the other 2 acres are going to stay as bog.
Yep.
Will those still be active?
The bogs that remain that aren't restored are active, yes.
And they will continue to be active?
Yes. Because there's other bogs without, even, outside of this area that we're talking about that they have that are active.
Right.
To the north, yep.
Okay. That's all I had. Questions from commissioners?
Yeah, maybe this is more for Dan than Matt, is procedurally. So you're just waiting to try to wrap things up with the planning board to say which way we're going to go, and LEC and Drew. So you say, you're going to come back to us, say, okay, this is what the planning board approved. This is what everybody's agreed to with staff, LEC, you guys.
Yep.
And one final package that we're going to vote on at
Yep.
some future date.
That's the hope, yes.
Correct,
exactly.
okay.
Yep.
I just was trying to get it straight in my head.
I know, it's a process for sure.
Yeah, okay.
But piggybacking on that, typically, a bog restoration would have its own NOI.
That is going to have a separate NOI. So if you want, if I could, real quick recap, I know it's been a while, we talked about, it's probably, 6-8 months ago. The process here that we had identified and talked through is, we have this project here, we get an order of conditions for the project. The order of conditions, one or several of the conditions within that order, will be, here's the bog restoration required. This plan, whether it's 2 acres or 5 acres, whatever, we'll modify that to show the areas that it's going to be. There's going to be a bond posted by Willow Bend for the dollar value of that bog mitigation that's to occur, so that the commission has that, so that if something ever happens, the money's there to be able to do it. We get the order of conditions for that, so we now Willow Bend knows, okay, this is the area of mitigation that we're going to target. And then we will get into the actual detailed bog restoration plans, which, that will probably be, will be probably 3 months or so in the design of that, just because, the investigation that has to happen in the bogs is there's a lot of test pits that have to be done, soil analysis, et cetera.
Yeah,
We're going to be working with Fuss and O'Neill, and Fuss and O'Neill is going to be pulling together the detail, and then we'll come back with another NOI for the bog which will actually detail the bog restoration itself. This is the footprint of it.
Yeah, I don't even know how you could post a bond for that without, like, the value without getting into the weeds on what you're doing for
Well,
restoration.
based,
And 3 months is, I mean, typically a bog restoration, you're looking at years of planning and studies and figuring out
yeah,
what
no,
the base
no,
layer is.
No, I don't, I mean, 3 months, I might be being
Yeah, I mean, it's gonna be a lot more than that.
optimistic, but it's not gonna be years though either, no. And as far as the value, and again, that can be, discussion, I'll say, as far as the bond value, but we did discuss that previously. I've discussed it with Drew. We've discussed, I think, the town has restoration projects, bog restoration projects that you're currently performing. And based on discussions
took
with Fuss
years.
and O'Neill and work that they've done, we came up with $150,000 per
Don't take a
acre.
day.
I think, Drew
You think it's gonna
can-
cost how much?
$150,000 per acre. And so Drew and I discussed it, and again, just recently, and 'cause I was asking about the current projects, and he can add to this, and he can provide some additional backup, and maybe, even after this hearing, but we believe, and based on the costs that the town's seeing on their restorations, that $150,000 we're on the high side, that the values are actually coming in under that, but that's what we had discussed before. So again, I mean, I think, that still can be on the table, and if there's questions, and, we'll identify, what makes sense, but there will be a bond posted for the value of the
All right.
restoration.
Before we even get to that part, I mean, I see a property that has wetlands on both sides, it has a river on one side. I see a project that came before us that was to bomb the entire thing and to develop a ton of it with, a putting green and whatnot. And then that stuff was scaled back, 2 houses were removed, but really the amount of disturbance hasn't totally been, aside from the putting green, hasn't really been lessened. So I see space in the middle where you could have 7 houses that are not within wetlands jurisdictions, and you could have a project that's not impacting the wetlands as significantly as I think this is, being within the 200 foot to the river and within the 150 feet of the wetland on the other side. So I appreciate that the planning board is doing their piece of it, but when it comes to wetlands protection, I see a property that could be designed way better
Well,
to have less impact.
I think this is dialogue that we've had before, too, with this commission as well. I think the overall net benefit environmentally for this project versus if this project doesn't occur is a significant net benefit, both for the habitat aspects, for nitrogen reduction. When you look at, this, if you go to the existing conditions plan, there's an existing, single-family 5-bedroom home in the center there. A lot of that, the lot is disturbed.
A lot of it's
One
also
more
wooded.
sheet there. Dan. Yeah, there you go. There's the existing house footprint, driveway here, septic. This is all altered back here, backyard landscaping, et cetera. I mean, understanding your comment, and understanding that there's, for this to be it's already, from a, financially viable for them to do it. It can't get any smaller, and I think the agreement was, and we have talked about it in the past with this commission, that the net benefit overall, and again, wanting to hear, comments from the commission, from staff, and I think even in LEC's original letter was even saying that it was going to be a significant benefit, and that was when there was still a lot more wetland impact. Alex, understanding your comment and understanding that we're inside of, we're definitely, you have units that are in buffer areas, the entire lot almost, I'll say, is in the conservation's jurisdiction. But we believe that, this is what we've referred to as the hole in the donut for Willow Bend. You have this one house lot here, and it's all Willow Bend, special permit, all on wastewater treatment system, septic systems, et cetera. This is the one house remaining that Willow Bend owns. They actually are using that as their workforce housing right now. That will go away. The 5-bedroom septic system that's in there, that's right near the wetland, is going to go away. This is being connected to the wastewater treatment plant for Willow Bend, which brings it the wastewater far away from here and is disposed of through a treatment plant, treating down to I think it's about 3 milligrams nitrate is what's coming out of the plant. So again, a very high level of removal of nitrogen, the restoration of the habitat, the removal of the bogs, the active cranberry bogs, which, they're putting in, I talked with the cranberry farmer, they put in an average, depending on where the bog is and the type of plant that's in the bog, they put in anywhere from 30 to 42 pounds a year per acre of fertilizer. And those are under an agricultural use, that's what's allowed, and that's standard. I think if you look at some of the watershed reports that were done by the different towns for DEP and the sewering aspect, it talks about, very similar numbers. So I just think overall that it's a net positive benefit for the town on many fronts, I believe. I mean, environmentally, the affordable housing aspect contributions that are being made by the town. There's then, again, I know it's outside of the purview of this commission, but there's a tax base that's created, very little draw off of town services that Willabend has because of how Willabend is. So there's a lot of positives of this project overall for the town, I believe, so.
You're just worried about loss of vegetated areas and trees and
Sure. Yeah, I mean, the amount of development right there, right along the river. And then you look at the other side of the river and it's completely developed. And I know we're looking at just this lot, but it's like that area and the ecosystem functions that are occurring with that buffer is gone. So I don't know. I don't.
But if it can't just,
I think it's hard that LEC did a peer review on something that changed completely, and that it was a project put forward with absolutely everything, just so that you could then scale it back to be like, oh, but look at everything we gave up.
No,
like it feels like a bait. It feels like a bait and switch, and it feels like even though we've been updated on your process, we haven't been given. I don't know. I just feel like when you look at our bylaws and when you look at what we're here to do, I don't really care what the planning board is doing. Like,
Yeah, and
great,
that's-
I'm glad that they're
yeah.
maybe approving it for you or that it got remanded to them, but like,
No,
I
but
think
that's-
there's a restoration that needs to happen on the river regardless, because cranberry farming should not be directly on a river. It should be on wetlands off of a river. Sure. But I also think this property is, I don't actually think it should hold that many houses, given that there's wetlands on both sides, that it's a riverfront, it has a lot of really complex pieces. So that's just how I feel. So maybe we can go to other commissioners.
Okay. Someone else? Questions, comments? Marjorie? I don't know if she's still there or not.
I am, and I'm fine. I'm good.
Okay. All
I
right.
was sneezing.
Bless you.
Bless you, thank you. Thank you, thank you.
If it is just 2 or 3 acres versus the 5, and the other 2 continue to remain farmed bogs, is there an impact to the restored bogs? Like, do we not get the full power of the restoration because of the other 2 or 3 still being active?
Well,
And maybe that's,
if it's above it on the river, then the nutrients are flowing down into it. If it's below it on the river, the nutrients are still flowing down into it. I mean, either way.
Yeah, it's still, most of the, bogs that, exist throughout Mashpee and the Cape, you're right there, you have bogs that are then flowing through downstream resource areas typically, yeah, so, but there's still, there's definitely a benefit, but is there, there's a, obviously if all the bogs were gone everywhere, that would be environmentally better overall across the Cape, but you still have, there's absolutely a benefit and a positive impact. Just the removal of the nitrogen aspect, but then the habitat restorations. And again, just back to just real quick on the buffering aspect. Yeah, the buffer, but it's the outer edge of the buffer. We're restoring. You got to remember, a bog it's mowed every year. there's no
We've been
natural
at this for a
vegetation
really
in
long
the
time.
bog.
Let's see if anybody else has anything to
So.
say. You're kind of repeating yourself, Matt, sorry.
Okay. All right. Dan, is there anything you want to add?
No, just as Matt's saying, we're waiting for the planning board, waiting for that whole thing to go through, mainly because that could possibly change the plans again, but that'll give everything a set, definite direction for the Conservation Commission to look at from that point. My only question is, with this whole complex, are they going to have irrigation, lawn, things of that nature? Because
There's lawn area. It's actually been, we had submitted nitrogen calculations for the lawn area. It's actually been reduced even further from what was submitted, just from an overall nitrogen net zero and a nitrogen reduction just under DEP requirements under the wastewater treatment plant. So the lawn's actually been reduced further. I think it's, we have about 17,500 square feet of total lawn area for the entire project, which, you know, it's like 1,200 square feet of lawn per unit, I think.
all right, so the reason I ask is because in Mashpee, you can't water your lawns or anything with the town water. So they're gonna have to put, I would imagine, some kind of pump, or they're gonna have to run it from existing or what they already have. Would there be any option or possibility for them to put a reverse osmosis system on that irrigation system? Because that would reduce nitrogen as well. Just a possibility, because looking at the whole project, my big thing is making sure performance standards, waivers, the whole environmental assessment, everything is in line for the commission to have full fledge over. And I know nitrogen loading always comes up, especially when it comes to these cranberry bog restorations. I've been hearing that a lot with cranberry bog restoration. So I think anything to offset nitrogen might be a benefit for this project. And a reverse osmosis system is $3,500 at the Home Depot, which could be not too bad for a system like this if they were just going to use it for horticulture, for lawn, things of that nature. And then when it comes to the funding and everything, not the funding, but all the money for the affordable housing and things like that, that is great and everything. That's definitely going to be between the planning board.
That's not understood.
Absolutely.
I just was trying to give a
So,
paint the
yeah,
picture
the whole mitigation
of what we're
package.
doing, right?
Yeah, the whole mitigation package. So if there's anything that could be done for that, when it comes to that, any discussions that could be done for offsetting of planting trees, anything that could be done for Earth Day outreach to help with kids or just give trees away or anything of that nature, I think might be a benefit, because as we can see, there will be trees removed. And though the town has a tree bylaw, I think anything extra to help plant trees through town or assist in that nature, I think would be beneficial as well. So just comments on my end, but other than that, I'm just reviewing it for the performance standards and everything we're going through as we are. So,
Drew, is there anything you want to add?
Yeah, I just wanted to, first, I completely understand Alex's comments. It's a lot of development on a lot that's, surrounded by various types of wetlands. But I did want to point out that the freshwater wetland, a while back when that was going to be part of the proposed town green, or like another development area of this project that has since been removed, there was a wildlife habitat evaluation done on that freshwater wetland, and it did not provide vernal pool habitat. So I think that would kind of lend itself to the smaller isolated vegetated wetlands. That would be the same case, because this freshwater wetland is probably like 20 times the size of that isolated wetland, and it doesn't support any vernal pool species based on a wildlife habitat evaluation. But like any other project where you're dealing with pre-existing non-conforming conditions, previously altered areas, and you look at it from a standpoint of what's being offered to offset the impacts, and really what are the impacts specifically for a given project. So with this one, the biggest one that stands out as far as a non-impact is, that it's being hooked up to a wastewater treatment plant, all of these units. So you don't have any nitrogen pollution or groundwater pollution happening here or being contributed to. And in fact, you're removing pollution source by removing the on-site septic system with the existing home, and then restoring the bogs as well. So when you look at it from that standpoint, I think, when you use that term net environmental benefit, I think this really qualifies as that overall. What else I wanted to say about it? I think that was really the main point. There's the trade-off. Also, it'd be good for the commission to discuss, about the acreage of restorations being proposed for the bogs. My personal preference or recommendation would be that it be the full 5 acres of restoration, because I think that's more in line with the purview of the commission and the Wetlands Protection Act, is to improve wetland habitat. That's really degraded riverfront area. I even hesitate to call it riverfront because it's so heavily altered that that is something that I would want to have see as much as possible. And I know there's benefits in what the planning board is trying to figure out as far as using monetary value as part of that acreage, but my recommendation would be if the commission moving forward with this proposal, that you pursue the full 5 acres required, of restoration for riverfront. So, no other comments.
Thank you. Any comments from the public? Okay. So we need a motion for a continuance.
We're going to leave that for an open future date, or do we want to pick a date?
I mean, if you want to just do it open to a date certain, if that's okay, because I mean, it's going to be
Yeah, that's what I was
April
thinking.
anyways, before, by the time, planning board, LEC, DEP. But if we can just do a date certain, and then I'll follow up with Drew and Dan, and we'll come up with a date that makes sense. Yeah.
Make a motion to continue 275 Quiniquisette Ave to a date to be determined.
I'll second.
Thank you, Alex. Motion made and seconded. Further concerns before I call for a vote? Anything? None? Okay. Steve?
Yes.
Alex?
Yes.
Sandy?
Yes.
Rich?
Yes.
Marjorie?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. Thank you, Matt.
Yeah,
Thank you
thanks,
very
Matt.
much. Y'all have a good evening.
Good luck. You're also welcome to stay if you want.
No.
Trying to be generous tonight.
Well, you have to start offering wine and cheese or something.
Yeah, right.
We might fall asleep, though.
Don't be afraid to brush off my car.
That's true. All right, then, an ice cream sundae on some reason.
Okay, we're going to move on to the next hearing. 291 Monomoskoye Road, Jacques N. Morin, trustee, the 291 Monomoskoye Realty Trust. This is a proposed construction of a single-family dwelling, hardscaping, landscaping, associated utilities, and an IA septic system. Representative is Down Cape Engineering. This is a notice of intent, DEP file number 433314. This hearing's continued from September 26th, November 14th, and January 9th. And before we begin, I was informed this afternoon, just before 4 o'clock, that you had filed with the ZBA.
We have, yes.
Do you have that paperwork? A
I don't
copy of
have
it?
it.
I do have a couple copies if you'd like it.
I'd like to at least see one of them,
Sure.
because without that paper, it's really not a complete filing, per regulation 172.5E.
I agree, and it was filed this afternoon.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay, can I have your names for the record, and you can get started?
Sure. Dan Ojala, I'm a land surveyor and civil engineer with Down Cape Engineering in Yarmouthport. Brian Wall is the attorney. As it's mostly of an environmental nature, I'll take the lead here, but he's certainly here if there are any questions of a legal nature. So with us also is Jacques and his Morin and his wife, who are hoping to have a home here. They have a home across the street and would like to have this as part of their family. We feel it's a modest proposal, and I think pretty well suited for the area. As you may recall, there's houses on either side of this little vacant lot. It's a grandfathered lot. That's one of the ones that comes under Mass General Law 48, Section 6, where it's over 5,000 square foot with 50 foot of frontage. And there's a letter included with the zoning board file that shows that it hasn't merged with any other lots. There's, again, houses on both sides, heavily developed area. We're in the outer reaches of your buffer zone with respect to the salt marsh. It's between 100 and 150. Portions of the house are outside of the 150, completely out of it. It is within land subject to coastal storm flowage. I know it's been a while since I did the presentation on it, so I'll just refresh your memory that as part of that, it's in, and I know you're looking at those land subject to coastal storm flowage regulations, and I'm sure you're all aware of this. Limit of moderate wave action is downriver of us. That's down in south of here, so we're well north of that where you'd have still water flooding. That's the sort of flooding that you're not as concerned with open piles. I did hear that the latest building code, which is coming in July, you can file concurrently. If you're in one of those more restrictive zones, the coastal A zones, MOWA, sometimes they're pronounced, where you have waves between 1.5 and 3 feet. They are going to require open piles now. But this would not be subject to that, so even if we're delayed past July and so forth, the FEMA compliant foundation that we have will be satisfactory. It's raised up, the first floor is high and dry, and there's flood vents, so the flood water simply go in and then go back out again. So fully FEMA compliant. Again, it's a small grandfathered lot. We're in here under just a couple of items. I think we comply with everything. We had requested 1,000 square foot of lawn. It didn't seem like that waiver was too well received, so we rescinded that. So now we're, I think, fully compliant, except arguably, if you would say that couldn't have a vertical wall. But again, as I explained, we're in the still water zone, and I think my reading of it is that we wouldn't need it, but to the extent that we do need that waiver, we would request it. That's about it. Again, we're in the outer buffer. We feel that, and we met with Drew a couple of times, I think, once with Dan as well, and they concur that we meet the landscape requirement in terms of, we've got 500 minimum square foot. We've actually got 650 square foot, 10% of the lot plus naturally vegetated area. That's note 21 on the plan. And then, and if there's anything disturbed in there, we'll obviously replant it. And then also the lawn will fully comply with the regulations. And it's been reduced. You've got now a landscape plan, which is up on the board as well, or on the overhead, but indicates the very limited amount of lawn, formal lawn area, and again, that's subject to your strict regulations on nitrogen. Another highlight is the fact that we passed Board of Health with flying colors. We introduced, met with Zach, an innovative alternative septic system, so we've got a very low impact with nitrogen. It's almost single digits. I think it's something like 10.5 parts per million, whereas oftentimes 19 is acceptable in these areas. So we're nice and compliant there. We feel it's a modest footprint. It's about 1,100 square foot total, less than 1,000 on the upstairs. So it's it's going to be a nice little family cottage style home, and we feel that's it's reasonable for the area. There was no objections at health specifically here with conservation. One of the neighbors did write a memo, but again, it's I think we've answered their questions at the last meeting, and feel that with the reduction in the lawn, the acknowledgement of the relatively modest square footage, the landscape enhancements, we've added some more natural bushes and reduced the lawn even further, that this would be fully compliant with the regulations except the modest waivers are requested. And so certainly be glad to answer any questions if you have them, but would look forward to hopefully moving forward with this proposal. We do need to visit the zoning board after this. Thank you.
Thank you. Brian, do you want to say anything? Or?
Just that I did submit a request for waiver the last time, and we're reducing the requests by one because we now comply with the lawn requirement.
Okay. All right, I'll open it up to questions from commissioners.
And I would just add, since we've got a moment of silence, we did take a look at the proposed land subject to coastal storm regulations, and feel we're in good shape with those as well. So kind of looking forward, we think it's a nice, safe design. It was 10.51 parts per million, if I misspoke on that. That's our proposal.
So, question I had from our last meeting, that Drew had some concerns about the size of the house. And we have new calculations on the size of the house, and about the waivers. So is that still valid with you and Drew, Dan? Based on the last hearing?
For me, the size of the house, for me, the whole, with the lot and everything, the house is always a concern with the size because of setbacks and all that in the buffer zone and the flood zone. But I think Drew could definitely comment on that more, because I know he had more concerns on that. Drew, you there?
Yes. House size was one of the concerns that was raised at the last meeting. And I think, among other issues, the commission, comments the commissioners had at the last meeting, when it comes to house size, it's not something you can clearly define as far as like what size house is going to result in what type of impacts, but, as long as the house has the flood zone compliance aspect to it, house size is kind of, I guess, a discretionary kind of situation, to be figured out by the commission, what you feel is acceptable for a given lot size or what you may feel is excessive. I don't think that this is excessive. It's just a small lot, just over 5,000 square feet. So I think no matter what type of house footprint that's going to be functional for the property owner, it's going to take up a pretty good portion of the lot, given with the associated hardscaping, landscaping, and other services. So it's kind of relative to the lot size, but no other comments. I'll pass it back to the commissioners.
Thank you.
So basically, answer that.
Through the chair, I could,
Hold on.
Okay, so, Dan, what's the surface is going to be underneath the decks and the stairs?
so generally we'd do just a clean wash stone, pervious material. Jacques, did you have anything else in mind on that? Yeah, that would generally be what we'd do. Looks like it's north facing, so it wouldn't get much sun there. Probably just some wash stone.
Can you note that on the plan?
Absolutely.
Well,
And I was just going to note too, that we've got 3 dry wells all around, so although it's a 1,000 square foot of roof, that's all going to be infiltrated right on site, so it won't contribute to any drainage issues. It's good sand that we hit, and we can use shallow dry wells and infiltrate that nice clean water safely. So there'll be very little impact from drainage. And it was a pervious driveway that you had requested, and that's noted on the plan as well.
Yeah, can you change the brick walk to pervious also?
Yeah, absolutely.
Landscape
Yep,
plan?
Yep, that would be fine, and that would work out fine, and we can note the wash stone under the deck.
Okay. Now, what are the size of the trees that you're showing being planted in along the property lines? It looks like you have some northern bayberry,
Dogwoods.
and you have some flowering dogwoods.
Yeah, flowering dogwoods, would be open to suggestion, but, I would think would probably do about a 1 to 1.5 inch caliper. They tend to grow in a little bit better that way than a larger tree, but if you'd like a larger sample, we could certainly consider it.
Well, just thinking if you had, eastern cedars and some rhodies and things like that provide habitat for birds and things, since we're going to lose a lot of habitat in the space versus a flowering dogwood. I know the hydrangeas and inkberries and the bayberries are nice, the lower ground cover plants, but something, a little taller for habitat. Especially along the Monomoskoye Road side, because it looks like you have, is that like 15 feet of buffer from the edge of pavement to the property line there?
Yeah, there is a pretty good amount over there on Monomoskoye because the road is kicked over. I think the trees would probably be safer planting them on our side of the lot line, just so nobody complains that we're blocking the layout, but...
Right, but so where you have the flowering dogwoods.
Yeah, so if we introduced two
trees
6-foot eastern red cedars instead. Would that sound reasonable, or?
Yeah, because they stay green all year round, provide buffer,
Yeah, those are great trees.
habitat for,
Or in addition, in all the
Yeah,
mulch space.
and
Doesn't need to be
they're
instead
good
of.
at surviving a little salt water once in a while
if you
too,
want to do
so
that. And it, yeah.
salt tolerant.
And
I
you
would
get-
say in addition into
Yeah,
what you've
okay,
got rather than instead.
sure.
You've got a lot of mulch area.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, I think that'd be a nice suggestion, and, you know, keep down not a busy road, but keep down the road noise. Good. So so 3 interspersed along that buffer, if I could, would that sound reasonable?
Do like
6-foot minimum?
5 or 6 of them. Good number there.
Yeah, whatever they want.
So we'd have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 trees, 8. Again, we are saving the triangle up on the top. That's all natural up there, and some good-sized trees.
It's also another lot that's been pretty cleared next to that. It's a property too. That would be great.
Anything else, Steve?
No, I'm good.
Alex, all set?
Yeah.
Donna?
No, good, thank you.
Sandy? I'm good. And Rich has recused himself. Neil, any questions like that? Marjorie, if you're still online?
I'm still here.
Question that you, any questions
I see my
or
square footage. I'm fine.
you're all set?
Thanks.
So we've heard from Drew and Dan. Let me go out to the public, see if there's any questions. Yes, sir. If you could come up to the table, one of you gentlemen could give him a seat so he can identify himself and speak with us. Good evening.
Good evening. My name's Richard Moore, Director Butters at 14 and 21 Hamlin Road. We have concerns for water runoff from impervious surfaces, affecting the abutters. And I brought this up when 11 Hamlin, a building proposal was submitted across the street. And in the order of conditions for 11 Hamlin, it was stated that runoff from roofs and patios should be contained by a system of gutters leading to dry wells. And as far as I can see, it was never done. So our concern again, will this happen on the proposed project? Same runoff issue? I mean, I'm hearing dry wells, but
Through the chair, I could assure you we'll absolutely do.
Not now. He's got the floor.
Well, sure.
so again, it's a concern. I mean, we're a bit lower, it's kind of a swale where our property is located, and also the town access to Hamlin Pond is lower too. It's a swale over there. So you're looking at runoff going down the road either direction. The other thing, on the roadway in front of 11 Hamlin was raised as part of the IA system when that was installed. And I'm just wondering, the same thing's going to happen when 291 IA is put in. They're going to raise the road for that as well. Again, we're looking at runoff, and we're seeing effects of it on our property. It's running down the road into our driveway. There's washout there. That's my comment. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else who would like to comment? No? So I guess we're all
I
set.
could offer a little bit if it's helpful. You good?
Sure, go ahead.
Sure. Again, Dan Ojala from Down Cape. So with this proposal, sometimes they do French drains instead of gutters and downspouts, but on this one, we absolutely commit to do gutters and downspouts to the dry well shown on the plan. So there will be zero runoff from the roof, adding to any issues on the road. The road, he's right, it was raised a few inches, on the order of, there was an 8 contour that went to about 8.3, 8.4. There's an 8.6 on our side. We're raising about 4 inches to 5 inches on our side, and then it tapers up to the house. But again, all the roof runoff is contained, it's a pervious driveway. We wouldn't anticipate this would affect one bit because of all the infiltration on site. Just a very little bit of grade change. It'll feather in very nicely with what's there, and we'll absolutely commit to gutters, collecting it to downspouts to the dry wells to make sure that there's not one drop that goes into the road.
Thank you. Okay.
What is the groundwater elevation at that site?
It's tidally influenced, so on the monitoring well, we had it about half a foot, 0.56 at moon tide. That's NAVD 88 datum. So that's what we found it at. And that actually was a few inches higher than Cape and Islands had it, a little bit closer to the ocean, so that checked out as well.
So it's a half a foot below groundwater, or ground level?
No, that would just be the, 0 is basically the mean sea level. And so when the tide comes in, it goes up a little. When it goes out, it goes down a little, but it's floating about 7 inches above the average of the tide.
So it's
Very
8
sandy.
feet below the ground? I'm just asking how far down
Oh, sure,
until you hit it.
yeah, 8 feet,
Okay.
yep. I usually go right to the elevation, sorry about that.
So how big are the dry wells that you're proposing to install?
So what we do is work with the builder and the designer and take a look at the roof area. So we do 8% of the roof area drained for sidewall and bottom area of wash stone if it's set in clean sand. So they'll be custom sized. They're shown approximately right, but we work depending on where he wants to put the downspouts. We'll look at how much roof goes in, and then we size the leaching area of the sides and bottom of the dry wells to be 8% of the area of the roof drain to that particular downspout. That's how we do it.
So it can handle what size rain event?
So that'd be good for, and what that does depend on is what your, in Mashpee, they can use, I believe it's up to 0.9 gallons per minute per square foot, so that'd be about a 25-year storm. Yeah, that would be a nice, safe design.
Which we've been having like once a year.
No.
Yeah,
We get
more than
once
once a year.
once in a while, but that can continuously handle probably.
I mean, last year when they were presenting
4
it to us,
inches.
we were literally having like a 50-year rain event while they were telling us that it's a once in 50, like the numbers. So I think the concerns of runoff are valid if it's spec'd to a 25-year rain event.
Well, that's, it could be, but that's what you generally design small roads to, subdivisions up to 10 or 15 lots. If they're bigger, sometimes you go to a 50-year storm. But this will continuously run 3.5, 4 inches per hour right into the ground. I mean, you could have a tremendous event and never get a drop. If you got a super high intense thunderstorm, they would probably overtop. But again, the whole place could be under 7 feet of water if we get a big storm. Not 7 feet, but, elevation 10. Coastal areas, elevation 11 is the 100-year event, big coastal
There's no
storm.
plan for these dry wells? I didn't
It
see.
shows where they'll go. It shows the 3 of them, but it doesn't show
Just shows the
any
location.
sort of
Right.
side profile or
Details, yeah,
size.
cross-section.
No,
Yeah,
it
we'd be
doesn't show
happy
that.
to present a revised plan with these items, and then we could put a dry well in there. There is a requirement that the bottom be 2 foot above adjusted groundwater, so, fair point there, and work with the building designer to figure out exactly where he wants to put the downspouts. We've guessed, I think, pretty successfully, but in case he's got any changes, we'll pick them up and size them and submit a revised plan. Be happy to do that.
We could condition that, Paul.
Okay, then. I'm open for a motion.
Anything else from Drew or Dan?
I don't think so.
Good.
No.
Is there anything else, Drew, that you wanted to add before I call for a motion?
No, thank you, Paul.
Okay.
Okay, I'll make a motion for close and issue 291 Monomoskoye Road with the following conditions. Number one, to have gravel or stone underneath the decks. Number two is the brick walkway will be changed to a pervious walkway. Number three will be specifications and cross-sections on the dry wells.
Perfect.
And number four, I was just thinking about this, should we have a monitoring contract for,
Vegetation.
you know, the plantings and lawn? And, you know, a submission of a signed mitigation, monitoring, and maintenance contract between the owner and a certified wetland consultant or horticulturist for a period of 3 years.
This is good.
And then, oh yeah, then the changes to the lands, the planting plans from the
Planting
trees,
habitat,
from
yeah.
dogwoods over to 6 red cedars.
As a point of clarification, we're just adding 6 cedars and leave the dogwoods?
Yes.
Is that basically
Yep.
just fill it right up? Yep.
Correct, yeah. So those are the conditions.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Marjorie. Motion made and seconded. Open for discussions or questions from commissioners only.
I just think it's disappointing to see a vacant lot in the flood zone like this being developed when it's going to be underwater within 100 years. I think it's sad. I mean, I guess that's the applicant's choice. I think it does affect the people around them, but I just think it's sad.
Anything else? Nothing? Okay, I'll call for a vote. Steve?
Yes.
Alex?
Yes.
Sandy?
Yes.
Marjorie?
Yes.
And I vote no, but the motion carries.
All right, we really appreciate your careful consideration, and I'll get that revised plan right in for the order. Thank you, folks, very, very much.
Good luck.
Thank you.
1, 2, 3. Sandy, you want to cover this?
Oh my God. Are you okay?
Sleep, oh, I hate that.
Is there ice over there? All right?
Yeah, my foot was asleep and just.
You can't get hurt, you're about to leave on vacation.
Just give me a second to clean up my desktop here. On the next hearing for 90 Wheeler Road, George L. Rice Jr. and Jennifer C. Rice, proposed raise of existing single-family dwelling, construct and maintain a new single-family dwelling, hardscaping, landscaping, mitigation, pool, and a Title V IA septic system. Representative is J.C. Engineering. This is a notice of intent, DEP file number 433324. And this hearing is continued from January 9th and January 23rd. Good evening, sir. If I could have your name for the record?
Good evening, Brad Bertolo from JC Engineering on behalf of the property owners.
You say Zolo?
Bertolo.
Oh, I was sorry. Tired.
We were last here before you, January 23rd, and we had a lengthy discussion with the project, and I met with the property owners, and we came up with a new design. We slid the house as some of the commission members had recommended. So we relocated, pretty much took the pool, the patio, the house, driveway, and slid everything towards the street, about 16 feet along the property line, parallel with the property line, to increase the setback from the pond. Some of the members weren't here at the last hearing, but the project entails the demolition of a single-family house and construction of a new house. The new house includes a attached garage and a couple porches that is the desire of the property owners. The existing septic system that's currently there is a conventional septic tank to a leaching pit, and we'll be removing all of those components and putting in a Title V alternative system that provides nitrogen reduction. We are going from a 4-bedroom to a 5-bedroom, but we did submit nitrogen loading calculations, and currently, based on existing conditions, 4-bedroom house, the concentration of nitrogen is 9.91 parts per million, and with the revised septic, and even though an additional bedroom is proposed, we're reducing it down to 5.81 parts per million. So an overall reduction in nitrogen loading. We did provide on the plan a more detailed landscaping plan, kind of lay out the locations of the various trees and shrubs, ground covers that we're proposing. Currently, the house is situated pretty much right on top of the inland bank, the current house. So we're moving it back quite a bit. I believe roughly 50 feet or so from where it sits today, from front of porch to front of porch. Because of that, we included a small little walking path and sitting area along the mitigation area to provide some space where they can sit adjacent to the pond and watch, children in the water. With the house set back so far, you kind of lose that visibility, especially when you take into account the amount of vegetation that we're proposing within that inland bank. It's approximately 2,600 square feet that will be revegetated. That's currently lawn now, and I believe it's a decent mix of shrubs and trees that are proposed. And the area that's within the shrubs and trees will be planted with a wildlife conservation seed mix. So it's a nice ground cover in that area that will both provide more habitat and will help filter surface water runoff. As previously mentioned, we do have roof dry wells proposed that'll capture the entirety of the roof, as well as the proposed paved driveway will all be infiltrated. We are providing 3 separate locations of catch basin or yard drain that will capture surface water runoff. The patio itself, we are still providing the catch basins in that area, but we're proposing to use pervious pavers as opposed to an impervious paver. And we did provide a detail on the plan on how to construct both the pervious pavers as well as the dry well systems. Just another comment, we did add some additional erosion control around the limit of work, just to kind of concentrate, make sure the work stays within the areas that are depicted on the plan. Besides that, I think that pretty much covers the changes that we had proposed or what was recommended at the last hearing.
Thank you. All right, I'll turn it over to commissioners.
I think the applicant has provided everything that we requested at the last hearing, and I think everything looks much better than the first proposal. So I'm happy with the changes.
Okay.
And where are you in terms of the Board of Health approving the move to 5 bedrooms?
We had a discussion with the agent, and he had conversation with sewer commissioners and town council. There's no variance needed. So this is just a simple permit through the health department.
What's the final square footage?
Excuse me, say that?
I said, I'm sorry, I I'm at my office, not in town hall, so I don't have the drawing. What's the square footage? What did you finally come out with the 5 bedrooms?
The square footage of the house itself, what's that come
Square
down to?
footage, I think I have a lot coverage table on here. The total footprint of structure is 3,439 square feet, and that includes both the garage, the 2 porches, and the footprint of the house.
Okay. And it's a 4 bedroom? I mean, 4 bathroom?
5-bedroom home.
5 bedroom, 4 bath?
Bathrooms doesn't really contribute to flow.
Nobody contributes to my interest.
Yeah, it's somewhere in that range.
How many baths?
It's probably 4 or 5 bathrooms in the house.
Right? I'm not trying to get to your name.
I think it's 4, right?
It's 4, there might be one in the basement, I think there's 5, yeah.
5 total.
5 total,
With the
This
front
is the
door?
homeowners.
yeah, with the homeowners.
Hi, how are you? You also are not at the town hall.
Yeah.
Curious, just looking, you know, for the number of baths as it relates to the septic and the whole look of things.
Yeah, I think there's 5, but yeah.
Yeah, but we don't have 5 kids. We're hoping our kids are gonna visit us in the summertime, but I don't think they'll be living with us. So most of the time, the house will have 2 people in it.
Well,
We're hoping to retire there.
We'll all use the
Yeah.
baths. That's
Other-
good.
Other questions?
I have a
Other
question.
questions, Marjorie? Are you all set?
Look at,
I'm going to move this along if you're all set. Okay?
I'm all set,
Okay.
sorry.
Other questions?
So
Alex?
when I'm reading this, is there a request for a waiver for mitigation? I mean, it says the required mitigation is 5,200 square feet, and the proposed, unless I'm missing something, is a lot less than that, is 2,600 square feet.
Yeah, so we're included with the mitigation is a number of dry wells. And if you take a look at that mitigation table, although it says 5,200 square feet based on your RIC table, 5,400 square feet or 5,468 is just for the work outside of the 75 feet. So we are basically accounting for the work that's within the 75-foot buffer zone because we don't have a 75-foot naturally vegetated buffer zone on the property.
So you're not providing all the mitigation required?
Well, mitigation is both planting and the dry wells.
So the way I read I would think that the 50-foot water offset, everything within that should be a buffer if you're gonna try to do that. We've definitely turned away projects in the past where pools were within the 50-foot buffer and had them, reconfigure it, scooch it, change the patio to not be within the 50 foot, and where it's also within NHESP priority habitat. I don't know. I know we already heard this once, and I don't know if that was raised last time.
I
But
remember a lot of discussion about the pool, the size of the pool, perhaps shrinking it a little bit or trying to pull it back a little bit. There was a lot of discussion.
that's what I thought. But
So they've pulled everything back some.
Yeah, one of the reasons we added the pool is because the water is unsafe to swim in after certain parts of the year.
Oh, sure.
So until the lake gets cleaned up, we may be having to use the pool instead of the lake.
Yeah, I
It's
sympathize
not-
with you on that
It's
one.
not relative to the concerns that we have.
Yeah,
Right.
but it is
It's the reason for the pool. Normally we wouldn't have a pool on a lake.
Right.
right.
Just trying to explain it.
And like the 50, it's all within the 50-foot buffer to the inland bank. The entire pool is.
I think the rationale of the original was we were putting it where the house was originally. And then we moved everything back.
Right.
Is what people wanted us to do, so that's what we did.
But you're saying is the required mitigation is far less than, I mean, the proposed
more.
mitigation is far less than the required mitigation.
Yeah. And the way our mitigation regs are written, it's the 50 feet to the buffer shall be vegetated. It's like
Well, it's a
part
2
of
to
what
1
it says.
It's a 2-to-1 ratio.
The
That's
2 to
a
1.
minimum.
Yeah, 2-to-1 ratio, and we say it shall be vegetated.
Right.
So what are you suggesting, Alex?
Lawn goes.
That the patio and the pool be reconstructed so that nothing is within the 50 foot to the water offset. Ideally, it would be outside of the 50 foot to the inland bank. I get that there's not really room to do that.
So does it require a waiver?
The way I'm reading this, yes, but I don't know if I'm missing something. It seems like it does. I've never seen dry wells count as mitigation before.
No. No, they don't.
Well, you could, Mr. Chairman, can they request a waiver the same evening, at the same hearing?
No, we'd have to, we would have to go with some type of a continuance to get the paperwork submitted.
But may I ask, based on the regulations I see, you have a 75-foot naturally vegetated buffer zone. That's required on new construction. Is that correct? Am I misreading that?
Within Mashpee? Yeah, there should be a 75-foot,
And you have jurisdiction up to the 150.
correct, from,
So what do we do for work between the 75 and 150? How are we supposed to mitigate that if we can't touch the area within 75 feet? So we moved the house further away from the water, which put more of the structure in areas that are currently grassed or woods. So it actually hurt us by moving it away, because you're telling us that the table says, oh, 2 to 1 in that area. I might as well just move it closer to the pond, and it's less mitigation. How do you account for that between 75s when this board authorizes work between the 75 and 150 to be developed? Why do I need to mitigate for work that's being inside that area? Completely understand the 75 down to the, I completely understand that. So if you look at the table, from 75 to 100, if you take all the calculations that we had, we have a negative number of mitigation required when you're comparing pre versus post, because we're pulling so much away from the water and we're converting a lot of the natural or impervious areas to pervious or grassed areas. So that's,
I think we're making a huge improvement to the lot. If you leave it the way it is right now, the downspouts and everything's running right into the lake. Everything's running right on the driveway, right into the lake. Our septic is an old septic system right on the lake. I mean, I think we're doing everything that the committee asked us to do last time. We're now getting kind of a new curveball thrown at us.
Yeah, it's sort of a catch-22 to the homeowners to do X, Y, and Z, which they did. And then it creates this other issue. That's why I was wondering if we could address that in this hearing so there doesn't have to be a continuance.
That would be great.
How do we do that, Paul?
We have not had to cross that bridge. Let me go out, I'm gonna go out to,
New ground, here we go.
I was gonna say, we have yet
Let me go out. Hold on. Either Drew or Dan, do you want to weigh in on what we have here?
Yeah, so I know that, when it comes to using that chart, I guess there is some, room for interpretation of that chart, because it goes by, a standard of proposed alteration in previously altered areas, right? So, but when you've got some portion of the redevelopment taking place where existing structure is, I don't really see an impact from that would trigger mitigation, because you're just replacing one type of structure with another in the same footprint. But then you've got other areas that are outside the existing footprint, and that's where, at least how I view the chart, is where it kicks in, is if, you're proposing structure over areas of lawn or landscaping, but not within previously existing structure, because that's pretty much a wash in terms of any impact. But structure is pretty innocuous. So from that standpoint, I think that's how I interpret the chart and how the calculations should be run. And just to clarify the 75-foot buffer, the language there, the 75-foot buffer zone is not expected to be, created when you've got a previously altered lot or a pre-existing non-conforming condition. It is expected to be preserved if you've got an undeveloped lot. So I think there might be some confusion as far as that 75-foot buffer as part of the mitigation. It really comes into play on undeveloped lots. If there's an opportunity to enhance or create a buffer where none exists, like this property, I think you're looking at an improvement across the board.
Yeah.
When you've got, mitigation going over existing lawn leading to a water body, currently it's completely all, altered. So I think it's a benefit overall with the mitigation and establishing a buffer zone where there currently is one. No other comments.
Okay, thank you.
Does that work for you, Alex?
I don't know, Marge, I tried to be consistent.
Well, there's no way to do that within our conservation world as we now know it.
Right.
To have it be right all the time. Everything that's in here that they're trying to do, I feel as though even after, there was an awful lot of discussion about a lot of this. And I feel like it's just unnecessarily continuing on this for no measurable additional benefit, which is the whole reason for everything that we do, right? We all want to do the same thing. But I so respect where you're always going, Alex, with your work and amendments and whatever. So, but if you're good with it, I think, given what Drew has said, and in the absence of any real clarity, I think we've asked the property owners to do, and they've done everything that we thought was right and good about the project. So I'd like to see it go through, but I don't want to go up against anything, Alex, that you feel is in violation of our mission.
Yeah, I mean, I think I would want to hear from the other commissioners too.
Sure. Let me go out to other commissioners for their questions or comments.
Could I get either Dan's or Drew's perspective on the paved driveway and the runoff situation? Has what has been proposed meeting, is it really not going to cause runoff?
I think that was, at the last hearing, that was addressed, and maybe the engineer can speak to that more, but I think there was a specific reason why part of it was paved and part of it was going to be like either cobble or some form of perviousness towards the bottom of the driveway closer to the house, but I don't recall specifically.
I heard plowing issues, right, which is always a challenge on non-paved surfaces, but
So
last time.
those dry wells, will those dry wells catch it and slow it down?
Yeah, there's one right at the bottom of the driveway at the low spot.
Right.
Yeah, I know the the paved driveway would definitely be a point of contention. I can get that, absolutely. I know the original thing, as the homeowner said, this slope is extremely, it's not extreme as a slope, but it is quite the slope, especially when you're driving a car up and down it. So to have a paved driveway, especially in the winter and conditions we have currently, as we speak, is a benefit. So obviously the downturn with that is maintaining the stormwater management. So they do have quite the management on site, as well as just Steve just said, the one at the bottom is going to help curb a lot of that. So
And do we have a process for, as we think about things like plans for landscaping and things like that, can we condition it that the maintenance of the drywalls and things like that?
Yes.
That can happen?
yes, that can be conditioned for maintenance of the dry wells. Absolutely.
Okay. Other questions?
Just to
Rich?
kind of piggyback what Commissioner Cook said, I mean, they've come back and addressed every need that, we've discussed in the first one and what Drew had said as far as the improvements to the site, so I think I agree with both of those.
Neil? I agree. Rich? Okay. Sandy? All right, anything from the public? No?
I do have one question. What's the distance from the pool patio to that fence between the mitigation?
Pool patio and the fence.
Between this, you're showing a fence along the top of the mitigation where it's all lawn?
It's about 16 feet, because we'd moved everything 16 feet.
Okay. So, yeah, where that was pool and patio, now it's gonna be a lawn.
Correct.
I just wonder if there's room for compromise where we can take half the lawn for mitigation.
Or just fill the
Did a
50-foot
pretty big
buffer.
compromise.
If the 50-foot buffer is filled, 50-foot buffer to the wetland is filled with
Right,
restoration
but
plantings.
see, the 50-foot buffer
Right.
comes to this way, so if you say, all right, this is a, rectangle and you split it, along that way, basically, that's what it looks like. You say, all right, if you take, 8 feet of it, that's basically
I
the
think,
whole area, the whole 50-foot area.
Yeah, that whole area right now is a house, so.
Right, but I'm just talking for, if you're looking for more mitigation, where that's a rectangle right here,
right,
half that rectangle on a diagonal is the 50-foot.
right,
So if you just do
half of
8 feet up, that covers the whole 50-foot.
Right, it would be equivalent to it.
Equivalent, yeah, that's right, right, equivalent.
So rather than have that jog in the fence, so right here where it jogs, if it just went like straight across,
Yeah,
basically.
just goes straight across here.
Yeah. I just think where it's within natural heritage,
Right.
priority habitat.
And I understand what, Drew and Dan are saying, geez, we're picking up all this mitigation where there's
Isn't
nothing
any.
now, right?
And our regs say that that shall be vegetated.
Right, right. So now you're saying, okay, she'll be vegetated within, it says be as close as possible to the closest resource area or nearest, other pre-existing naturally vegetated and/or areas with significance pertaining to the wetland values.
Right.
So that,
And we're getting 1-to-1 replacement for the trees. So there's 13 trees coming out, there's 13 trees going in.
Yeah.
Typically, we have it higher than that, and we typically ask for it to be as close to the resource area as possible. So,
no, this existing
Those
road
trees
is
are
down
coming
here.
out from the resource area.
I
So,
thought some of those trees are
Yeah,
coming
they're coming
up.
out from moving the house.
We had to move the house
Hold
back.
on,
Yeah,
hold on,
and that's why-
hold on.
hold on.
this is an open discussion.
We're
Yeah,
we're
sorry.
deliberating right now.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Right, they are coming out within our jurisdiction. Yeah,
right, then hold on. The ones are going in, too.
right, 1-to-1. Typically, we do more than that.
But it's outside the 75 foot, so there's really only 3 within the 75 feet, or 1 in the 75-foot buffer zone.
You know, I'd be open if we just, you know, push that mitigation back 8 more feet. Then it's, you know, you're not gonna hit 100% of the numbers, but I think it's a compromise between what the chart says
Right.
and what's being proposed.
And is there a possibility of putting some extra trees up top to compensate for what Alex's concerns would be on a 1-to-1 tree replacement?
Because I do recognize the benefit of it moving back.
Right.
And that is a benefit, I'm not denying that. But I do think if, you know, more of the 50-foot is filled, and sure, if they want to stick with their straight, squared lines, it could go straight off that corner by the shed, and if the fence just goes straight across there, it's moved up. That's all filled in with mitigation plantings. I'd be amenable to that compromise. They still have an area to sit or view the pond.
I know, it's kind of tight to throw more trees in there because really, you can
Right.
see some of these areas are all vegetated anyway,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah,
you know,
and I do want the wells there, and I do want the wells functioning, so like I'm not super worried about that if we were to gain another part of the 50-foot.
Yeah.
Okay. No other questions or comments? I would accept a motion.
Okay. Make a motion for a 90-Wheeler Road for close and issue. The following conditions that all dry wells be maintained and monitored. That a submission of a signed mitigation monitoring and maintenance contract between the property owner and a certified wetland consultant or horticulturist. And the condition of a use of a pump truck for any drawdown, emptying of pool water. And then the mitigation plantings and fence will move back from the corner of the proposed shed, straight across 8 feet back from the current location on the plan.
8 feet.
8 feet.
It's about, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure the property owners are amenable to that, because we've
Yeah,
already
I
taken,
don't think we're gonna do that.
we've
So,
already moved the house quite a bit.
Am I allowed to speak or no? I'm sorry.
No.
Not right now.
Okay, sorry.
But I don't really know when they would speak either.
And that was,
So that's-
there was no other conditions that you wanted to put on that?
No, everything else met what we asked for last time.
Okay, so let's run,
And I'll second that,
all right,
and then
for
we
the
can discuss
purposes
it.
of discussion.
Yeah.
Okay,
So are
so
you seconding the original, Steve's original?
Steve's motion has been seconded by Alex for the purpose of discussion and deliberation amongst commissioners.
Okay, great.
Okay? All right.
Yeah.
So if they don't want that, then we're looking at a continuance.
I'm just getting a few notes here. Hold on one second. All right.
The way I see it is we're either looking at a continuance to get the whole thing out of the 50-foot, move it, and fill it in, or you would have to ask for a continuance, or that's what's on the table. Right?
Yeah, I mean, you've got a motion that is now on the table, and if the owners are not amenable to that 8-foot setback, pullback, then we're wasting our time.
Right.
We've already moved it as you guys had requested, so that was a pretty big move on behalf of the
Do you-
property owners.
We understand that.
And we
but
have a
we're
decent amount of
deliberating right now.
vegetation that,
We're deliberating right now on the motion.
But I'm gonna just make sure I haven't got lost in
Go ahead.
the shuffle here. What we're really asking them for is to give up 8 feet of lawn.
Yeah, we're asking for the 50-foot buffer to be filled.
Filled, yeah. So we're asking them not to move the house, not to move the pool,
No.
but just vegetate and give up some of the lawn.
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay.
And that's,
I just want to make sure I didn't
low
lose the
line
thread on
shrubs,
that.
trees, or is anything that they can keep low that won't obstruct their?
A lot of what is there is low. If you look at the
Okay,
species that are there, a
same
lot of
thing.
them are sweet fern, a lot of them are very low. So
Yeah,
they can
them-
work with conservation staff to find something that works.
And can they do that to have a path without filling, obviously filling all of it, but to
They
still
still
have a
have their
path?
path on the
Okay.
side,
Yeah,
yeah.
I'm not asking.
I'm not taking that away.
Okay. Anything else on the motion?
I mean, we've straight up denied other projects that had pools within 50 foot to the bank, let alone 50 feet to the water. So, yes, I understand they gave up space to move it back. They're also filling that space with the pool. So it's like, I don't know.
Sure. Okay. Before I call for a vote, if you would like to discuss with your client what we have on the table, please do.
Well,
Speed.
would,
Sure, you're going to be discussing with your
would
representative.
a portion of that, instead of grass, we provide a clover mix, so it's not lawn, but it still could be treated like used lawn and not have to be shrubs? It's a different species, it's less maintenance, there's more pollinator species that will grow in that area. But the area was anticipated to be used, and, you know, it is, if you look at it, most of that is house and patio and deck right now, so it's a vast improvement to change that from structure to grass, regardless of the rest of the project in that area. Never mind the 2,600 square feet that is adjacent to the pond that's currently grassed will now be completely vegetated, so.
And Brad, if we lose that 8 feet, is that up at the flat area? And if we put plantings in there, we're gonna be able to see our grandkids in the water? I'm just worried about safety. I don't even think I'll be able to sit up there and feel comfortable with kids down by the water.
If you would, good thing you have a pool.
I'm just offering,
I'm having a pool because in August and September, the lake's closed, like we did last year.
So you won't have to worry about your
So I
kids
want
up
my kids
there.
to come visit me. So that's why I'm doing the pool. If the lake was clean and it didn't have the algae blooms that either my dog can drink and die from, so that's why.
Sure, we absolutely understand the water issues with water in this town.
Yes, and that's one reason why we're putting the nitrogen septic all the way up as far away as we can from the lake. I mean, we're trying to do everything right here. and
Absolutely.
play by the rules, and
Absolutely.
we've done everything, and every time you get a new curveball thrown at us, new requirements, new things, and it's like, you know, it's frustrating. You just have to understand from our perspective.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
the
There must
proposed,
be a way, guys, that we can have this done so that the vegetation,
I'm just like on a VRBO, I just move on.
no, but however it's structured, so that they can see, they can have their path and they can see their kids from,
Something we're talking about.
The fence where it was and put in
Well,
what
he's not willing to do
Ralph
that.
suggested.
Yeah,
So this is your opportunity to speak with your representative.
we're talking.
Okay, so you guys are discussing right now. You have about 2 minutes left, because we're not done yet. We have a lot more on our agenda, so either we're approving it or we're continuing it. So that's kind of what's on the table.
Well, do we know what everyone else feels about it? And Brad, do you have any idea?
there's a motion on it, I haven't heard any comments, and it's either,
Everyone got to weigh in on.
I don't know if everyone got to weigh in on it.
So if we vote on the motion, then it passes. So if right now, if it goes to a vote and it passes, then that stands.
Well, we don't know what the motion is. All we know is
The motion
we just pulled the fence back, and now, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to see my kids in the lake. I have no visibility to
I think we
that.
just,
You changed it to the grading
8 feet
stuff.
to the-
Okay, I think they need to be muted.
And this wasn't part of what we talked about last time, so we could walk the land, we could see what was happening.
Can you read the motion again so they can
Everything you wanted.
understand it or hear it
Right.
again? I mean, is that?
Yeah,
Did
we
you
could
guys,
do-
was the pool shrunk? Wasn't the last time the discussion was about the
The whole
pool?
thing moved back.
And the pool got shrunk from the original drawing, yes.
So the problem is that you're within 50 feet to the water, you're within 50 feet of the coastal bank,
I
and you're
understand
within
what your
natural heritage.
perspective is. It just wasn't there last time.
There's
Yes,
no, there's no
those
take.
are our
We
bylaws,
have a
so-
no take from natural heritage, so that's already been reviewed.
It's within the jurisdiction. That's the discussion right now.
They said it
So-
was fine, they gave us a pass.
Okay, so bringing this back to a sense of moving forward. The motion was made and seconded, we deliberated out this, we went back to your representative to speak with you in regards to this 8-foot area.
Yeah,
Your representative is proposing a clover mix rather than doing plantings in there. And that's when the conversation fell apart. So
Okay. So why don't
let
we
me,
see how-
hold it, not right now, not right now. So I'm going to come back to the motion and ask the person who made the motion if what they're proposing to go to clover is acceptable for you to amend that motion.
but the fence is still going to be moved back 8 feet.
The fence would still be moved back 8 feet.
8
No,
feet.
it's not on the table.
That's,
That was in the motion.
was in the
Yeah,
motion.
because I said the fence is going to go from the shed over to 8 feet back.
It's fine, then move forward with the vote. We'll do half clover, half grass, but we want the fence as in the location that is on the plan.
It's not what's on the table.
No, that's not in the motion, no. The fence, because the fence divides,
The restoration, like the
mitigation, yeah,
mitigation.
right.
Okay, so in terms of procedure, I'll call for the vote on the motion. If the motion doesn't carry, then we're back to our next move. Anything else by commissioners?
What, just to, was the fence, was that something we asked them the last time they came in, or is this something, I'm just trying to get my facts straight here. So was the fence an issue the last time they came in?
No, because the patio was up against where the fence is. Now, this proposed
no.
plan has the fence, then a lawn area, then the pool and patio. So that's the difference between the two plans. So we reacted to the current plan, and that's what we're voting on, is the current proposed plan. The last plan, you know, had mitigation, so right up against the patio. I think I still have it here.
Right. So that didn't change,
Yeah.
just lawn
Barely see it,
instead.
but small, but shows an orange line, so there probably is a fence there.
Right, I see it.
I can't even tell if there's a note there. because
You want to see that?
It's a slightly larger, but. No, you need the fence for separation between the mitigation area and lawn area.
Or the 60-foot grass strip.
And, okay, so the fence.
The fence didn't move.
And this is at 70-foot elevation, right? Or 60-foot elevation? So you're gonna be able to see. And there's plants, mitigation plants that we accept that are only grow 3 feet high.
Yeah. It's 44 down by there, and it's 52 up here. 56 there. By the pool patio, it's 60.
58, 60,
58, 60, yeah, so it's a 10-foot drop across.
Yeah. I think that's fair.
Yep.
Okay.
So, Mr. Chairman, can I speak before you go to
Yes.
that vote?
Yes, go ahead, Marjorie.
I just want to make sure, I may be the only one, but I'm very confused about the difference between what was before us before and what is before us now. So I wonder if Steve or Alec can now read what is included in the vote now.
Sure.
Because the movement, the 50 feet, the 8 feet, the placement of the fences, and the difference between the clover and the grass makes a very big difference in my mind as to whether or not we can do the right thing by the regulations and also not create another whole system of things that the homeowners have to go through.
Sure.
So I would love to just hear how that all impacts. I think there's a resolution here somewhere, but I'm confused, and if I'm confused, I'm assuming I'm not the only one.
Well, you're also sitting there without the benefit of the plans in front of you.
That's
So
correct.
that's- That's an issue.
I'm trying to allow for that.
Okay. All right, so I'll go back to Steve and see if he can clarify
Okay.
for you, Marjorie, and perhaps the owners as well, this 8-foot issue with the new house being, or the house being
Right.
pulled back.
Right, so the motion was for a closing issue for the plan
Yeah.
as presented with the following conditions were to maintenance of the dry wells, maintenance of mitigation plantings, and maintenance contract between a consultant and horticulturist. Any drawdown of pool water be used by a pump truck, and then push the fence that separates the lawn, the new lawn area in the current plan and the mitigation area, move that back 8 feet to gain 8 more feet of mitigation plantings. So the fence separates the mitigation from the lawn area.
And
That's
so
the
Steve, in
motion.
your mind,
They would get this passed if they,
Yeah.
yeah.
I'm sorry?
It would pass if those,
Yeah,
they'd pass, get passed on these, with these conditions.
and basically have mitigation in the 50-foot buffer.
Yeah, I just want to make sure, the way that I'm envisioning it, because I've seen the befores, but I haven't seen the afters,
Yeah.
that there is a way for the homeowners to have all of that go through, and for the homeowners to still be able to have the same view of the lake. which
Yeah,
is part
it's
of
not
the
going to
lake.
impact the view, just move it back 8 feet. The elevation at the pool is 60, the elevation down by the water is 50, it's a 10-foot drop. So it's all low plantings, it's not going to impact the view at all.
Okay, great. All righty, thank you. I appreciate your going through that.
Okay. Nothing else? I'll call for a vote. Steve?
Yes.
Alex?
Yes.
Sandy?
Yes.
Rich?
Yes.
Marjorie?
Yeah.
And I vote yes as well, so the motion carries.
All right, thank you.
Welcome.
Hope that's good news for everybody.
I think it's a good compromise.
Yeah.
I think it is.
Pool was a terrible thing.
Good conservation.
It's okay.
I'm going to move to the next hearing.
Okay if they're not.
27 Sturgis Lane, Darrell S. Sharp. This is a proposed installation and maintenance of a seasonally developed aluminum dock, replacement of existing timber stairs, and a repair of an existing pump house and deck. The representative is Cape and Islands Engineering. We've had a request from the owner's representative to continue this hearing to April 3rd as a result of concerns that have been brought up by an abutter. I'm sure you saw the information that was submitted. It's fairly lengthy, point-by-point concerns, and I guess they want some time to address all of those.
Yes.
Very tight in there.
Yes, the abutter letter was the abutter letter. The BSC letter from the abutter was sent out. They hired their own person. So there was concerns in that. I'm not speaking for Drew. I think we both agree that there is some legit concerns in that, especially when it comes to any possible different placement or location on the property. So they are looking into that, and they want to make sure they have a solid standing, or they're able to change their plans as needed. So they want to review all that. I'm not saying they are going to change it, but they need time to review. So that's what this is all about.
So,
Yeah, you can speak for me, Dan, I agree 100%.
yeah. So pushes out to April 3rd.
So just for clarification, that Mr. Sharp was a client of mine as of last year. I finished working on this project. He was going to tear down the existing house and design a whole new house.
Oh, okay.
But he hasn't presented anything.
Right.
I haven't worked
This is
with him.
only for the dock.
Right, so I
Yes.
haven't worked with him in over 6 months.
Okay.
Last time I heard from him, so just,
Thank you for disclosing them. We all just did our ethics training.
That's
Yes,
how it works.
You did a good job.
Okay, so I'd accept a motion for this continuance.
Yeah, so moved.
Second.
Steve, thank you. Alex, any questions or comments before I take the vote? No? Steve?
Yes.
Alex?
Yes.
Sandy?
Yes.
Rich?
Yes.
Marjorie?
Yes,
And I vote yes as well, so that'll be continued to April 3. Our next hearing is 23 Wilson's Grove, Clancy Construction. This is a proposed raise of an existing dwelling, construct and maintain a new single-family dwelling, IA septic system, landscaping, and hardscaping. Representative is Strong Tree Engineering. Owner of record is GSG Nominee Trust of 2017. This is a notice of intent, DEP file number 433331. And do we have?
Online.
Oh, online, okay. If I can have your name for the record, we can get started.
Hello, everyone. I'm Katerina Gorloff. I'm the Senior Environmental Scientist and Permitting Specialist for Strong Tree Engineering. We are the representative. The applicant is Clancy Construction, and this is on behalf of Gary and Susan Gilberti. Now, they propose to demolish the existing 1.5 Cape Cod style house and to build a new one. If it is helpful, I'm not sure if there's a way you can put the plan up for your viewing on your end.
Yep.
But if you will look at your copies of the plan, you'll see that it's a rather tight lot. So we're essentially building the same footprint with some slight variation around the edges, which I'll go over. The property is located within a land subject to coastal storm flowage. It's in an 8 flood zone with a base flood elevation of 39. The closest coastal resource area is the beach, which is 185 feet to the east in the Poconesset area. So that is the main, the land subject to coastal storm flowage is the main reason why this is in your jurisdiction. So again, the applicant proposes to demolish the existing house, the foundation, the patio, the shed, and to replace the septic system, to upgrade the septic system. The footprint will overlap the current home and the existing cobble drive, which is located on top of the existing leach field. Both the drive and the leach field will be replaced under this proposed project. Also proposed is the new septic tank to be relocated from the southwestern corner of the property to the southeastern corner of the property. This is to include innovative alternative IA technology as part of the replacement. As part of our filing, we did calculate nitrogen recharge loading calculation using the IA system, and it is below the criteria needed, so it does fit, and it should be within reason there. It is 11.92 milligrams per liter. The footprint of the current footprint is 934 square feet for the house, 289 for the deck, and for a total of 1,223 square feet. The proposed house will be slightly larger, 1,170 square feet, with a 116 square foot deck structure and 81 square foot egress. The total of those together is 1,304 square feet. That would change the total lot coverage from 36 to 39%. However, due to the egress being decreased and impervious to a pervious, that actually leads to an overall reduction in impervious area by 52 square feet. A recharge basin will also be installed under this proposed project at the north corner of the house, and this will drive all roof stormwater into this recharge basin. The drive is proposed to be regraded, and we, per conversations with the Conservation Committee, we would like to add the cobble apron between the driveway and the road. And we will be removing and replacing some small bushes and one Japanese maple tree as part of these activities. And We will use the appropriate stormwater and erosion methodology and applications, such as the silt stock around the property and the work area. So that is a basic summarization, and I'd like to open it up to any questions.
Okay, thank you. I'll go to commissioners for questions on this project.
Okay, first question I have is this in a coastal A zone versus an A zone? Because it's, your plan doesn't differentiate on this. Because you're within three or four properties from a velocity zone.
Right.
Right, so it is in a coastal region. It is subject to coastal storm flowage. That is correct.
Question.
But is it a coastal A zone versus an A zone?
It's not a do you mean a velocity zone?
No, no velocity, a coastal A. There's a velocity zone, then a coastal A, then an A.
I am not certain, to be fair.
Okay. What's the foundation?
Concrete?
Okay, a full concrete pour with flood vents in it? Because there's no house plan submitted here. With
Matt is the design engineer. Perhaps you can speak to that foundation a bit. There are architectural design plans that were not yet submitted. I believe that maybe they were still touching them up.
Okay, he's here now, so I'll
Hi,
let him
Brian
speak.
Foley, Clancy Construction. I'm the designer of the house. I worked with Gary and Susan Gilberti, and I think they're on here too. The foundation will be a crawl space with smart vents.
Okay, so how come building plans weren't submitted with these plans?
We submitted the plans to ZBA, can certainly resubmit them to Concom as well.
Okay, I don't know if you're aware that all plans submitted to each board should be the same identical set of plans.
Certainly, understood.
And then, my next question is on the construction methodology. You have 4 feet from this foundation to the property line.
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna have a 4-foot overdig, a 3-foot, at least 3-foot overdig.
Yeah,
So how are you gonna keep from the neighboring properties from collapsing on that west side?
I completely understand. We did a similar project across the street at 19 Wilson's Grove. It's delicate. It's a difficult foundation to dig. This one is slightly less close in proximity. So we can and have done it, but I understand it's delicate.
Okay, and then with that cantilever section, how are you gonna work on that with you only 1.5 feet away from the property line?
We're certainly not going to disturb the neighbor's property. Like I said, it's delicate, and it's not a massive cantilever, but...
But how can you work on that face of a building when you only have 1.5 feet between the property line?
Like I said, it's tight, but it is doable. I mean, many of the houses on that street are, if not a foot away, directly on the property line. And I would say we're certainly in proportion with the other houses in the area.
How close is the neighboring house on the,
You can touch it.
It's close. I would say, I'm estimating, I think it's about 8 to 10 inches away. But I will say, the cantilevered section is above where their roof starts, and their roof starts to slope away as the cantilevered section goes up.
okay. I don't know, I some of the stuff doesn't make sense to me where you can have a cantilever section within 1.5 feet of the property line.
We will not disturb the neighbor's property.
Okay, are you open to placing this house on pilings versus a full concrete foundation?
That is a conversation I would have to have with Gary and Susan. I would say we would most definitely prefer to do it on a crawl space with flood vents. We're doing the back deck on pilings. We do have a small front porch that we could maybe be open to doing on piers, but doing the entire house on piers would probably be difficult.
Okay, yeah, we just need to know whether this is a coastal A zone or an A zone, because it's within 4 lots or 3 properties of a velocity zone.
Certainly.
Okay, that's all I have for now.
Okay. Alex, anything?
So, Matt Lehman, I'm the engineer, a civil engineer on this project, Strong Tree Engineering. I'm looking at the FEMA firm map right now. All it says it's an AE. It doesn't say anything about a coastal A.
I saw A.
The P doesn't say anything about a coastal A.
That is correct, Matt. I just checked as well, and it is not technically coastal A.
Pompanesett in that whole area has wicked swings in elevation that make it crazy. You've got some properties right on the water that are out of flood zones.
Okay.
Yeah.
Questions over on this
Yeah,
side?
I'm just,
Rich?
are we kind of spinning our wheels here? Like, if we don't have a foundation plan and even have smart fence, are we even, to continue this discussion? It's,
Well, what I was trying to do is get a list of things that,
Okay.
if we are going to continue, this is what we'd want to
Okay.
see, the FEMA map to make sure it's not coastal A, the
Right.
construction profile for the foundation, the vents, that type of stuff.
The flood zone is listed on the site plan as an AE, I
Right.
believe. Okay.
But the
There's a map as well included in the FEMA plugin.
I don't have the URL for those coastal A zones that I can pull up right now.
Yeah, me neither.
Sandy, you had a question?
I think we also need a landscaping plan. We don't, lawn, you know,
Right, this-
wood chips, what's this gonna be?
There was mention of taking some trees out,
Yeah.
I believe.
There's one tree being removed
One
that we are trying to save to give to somebody else. It's a small maple tree that has to be removed for construction reasons.
Right.
Because of the tightness of the lot.
And is there a plan to replace that?
Certainly amenable to that. Just have to find a spot to do it, certainly.
Small tree.
Very small, maybe 1.5 inches in diameter.
Other questions? Marjorie? I don't know if she's still there or not.
No, she's not.
She's not, okay. I'll go to Dan.
No, this is an extremely tight lot, as we can all see. It is not different from any other lot on pretty much the entire road.
Yep.
So quite honestly, so they are trying to work within that lot of what they have. The flood zone question, I don't know if it's a coastal A zone off the top of my head. This section of the area of town has kind of a high section to it. Literally the next road over, Jeep Place, I think it is out of the flood zone completely. So I don't know off the top of my head what that would be. But just please keep into consideration that this will be flood compliant. If there is consideration for piles, I think that's a discussion you can have with the commission or with the clients especially.
Can I ask a question?
Absolutely.
Is that the difference between moving forward or not, or just to be a kind of a feather in our cap to do that?
I can't say that. It's been different with each hearing, honestly. It's a common question that comes up. I'll be very direct about that. So it's been different with each hearing. So that's all.
Is that an issue of permeability under the house?
This usually comes down to if it is a coastal A zone, the commission is far more comfortable with having pilings for approvals than they are. If it's not a coastal A zone, I have seen the commission look more towards the flood compliant foundation, just from my experience, but I'm not speaking for them. That's all.
Okay, I don't think it's coastal A, but we'll confirm.
Okay. So, so just keep that in mind. Again, it's a very tight lot. I understand Commissioner Cook's concerns here, but looking at other houses on the property, on the street, I would assume that you can definitely do it without going on other properties. And obviously, if this was approved and that did happen, just let us know right away so we can tend to it, so.
Of course. I do have the foundation plan with the flood vents. Forgive me for not submitting it with this. Is that something, I guess we're going into continuance anyway.
If they made a motion tonight to approve, that could certainly be a condition. If you're continuing it, you can just submit it regularly. That's not a problem.
Understood.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Anything from Drew? Is there anything you'd like to say?
Just a quick word on the, 'cause I know Steve mentioned it, Commissioner Cook, the building plan. So under Mech 3, which we're looking at now, the bylaw review subcommittee, is all about, mostly about plan submittal requirements. And building plans in that regulation, they're not required, they're not even mentioned, except for, I think, there's quick reporting about if the commission wants to see architectural plans, they can request them.
Thank you.
So I just wanted to make it clear that that's not a plan requirement under the current wording for plan submittals under our regulations. So I'm more than happy to reach out to applicants and consultants from here on out to say, please supply a building plan or at least some form of generic architectural plan so you can get an idea of the foundations for projects within the flood zone. But I just wanted to make it clear it's not currently a requirement. That's why you're not seeing consultants bring them in along with the site plan, because it's not required right now. So just a clear record there.
That was my understanding. Thank you.
Yeah.
I thought
No more
that-
comments.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Bill. I thought, wasn't it, like, all plans to the boards be all the same? Is that a requirement?
We had discussed this with other projects, and there is also in Regulation 3, there is language that allows the commission to request additional plans.
Okay.
And that's what you're doing. You're
Okay.
Requesting that additional plan. I want to see that. You could make a motion to approve based on the submittal of that plan, if you think it's good enough. If you're not comfortable that this is or is not a coastal A zone, we could ask the client to request a continuance, so we could verify that.
Well, why
There's a
would
lot
we,
of
hang on,
options.
I have a question. Why wouldn't we think it's an AE zone if it says it's an AE zone and when I'm pulling up on my phone, it
It's
says
an AE zone.
Like, I don't know why we're questioning the flood over, like the flood designation, if that's what they've certified it is, and I mean, we can look on the maps right now and see it, and their guy did too. So if it's an AE zone, it's not in the flood or the wave action.
That is correct. It's not, the limit of moderate wave action line is much closer to the beach, so we are not within a coastal A. I did double check the
You can
FEMA
see the
map.
line.
You should have a figure 2 within the filing if you want to take a look. You can see the limit of moderate wave action line. It's referenced there.
Is that in the filing?
I'm going to
See
pull it up
that.
right now.
Hold on. This will answer questions on the next one as well, because they're side by side.
Okay, it's not in this paperwork.
I did not see that.
Is it in the second package?
That was one of the things I did notice earlier. Did you see it?
What? What's that?
Different location for the map.
There it
That's
is,
all.
right there. Hold it right there. Right there, wait, back up there, Dan.
Well, this is
Where is that?
the wrong map.
Oh.
This is just the wrong location in town.
Yeah.
It's not even in this is in Jehu, this
Because
is
there's a
Jehu
co-
Conservation
There's
Area.
a coastal A zone.
So, but what we can do, let me pull up the 25 Wilson's Grove, because it's right next to it.
Certainly.
Just for reference, not for anything other. All right, there we go.
Right, so the wave
Okay.
action line you can see
All right, we can see it.
is
So-
Okay.
a couple properties away.
And their house is right there where the mouse is.
Right.
That's the house.
Right, because they're side by side.
Correct.
And even if it was on the other side, it's still not in it.
I see it, yeah. It doesn't go up the road very far.
So you can see it there, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That answers my question.
All
So
right.
you're not within the coastal A zone, just for the record.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Okay.
Was it reasonable to ask for a conditional approval then, with the submission of the flood vents supplementally?
Mhm.
Okay.
I think we could do that. I mean, this is such a small
And-
lot, there's not a lot they can do. What would you want to see different, Steve?
This is also, like, Pompanesett is not at all within the town's thoughts of sewering too. So the only way we're ever gonna improve nitrogen in this area is to swap, to have houses get swapped out and better septic systems in.
Yeah, there's enough room on this property to move the house to the east to give more buffer for the person on the west and for construction.
We do
Keep
have,
digging.
pardon me, sorry. We do have the neighbor to the east support for the ZBA. He's aware of the project, has seen the architectural plans, and has been walked through it and supports the project.
Yeah. But you haven't offered any construction methodology yet, because you're within 1.5 feet of the overhang of the property line, within 4 feet
I
of the
mean,
property line to dig, and the impact there is just,
Me personally, I mean,
you have room to move the building to the east towards the septic system.
I totally appreciate that, and we did look at that. That was a very finely tuned site placement. I didn't want to crowd that side. It was an issue of keeping the parking area somewhat usable, because you can't park on the street, and all we have is that driveway, which we absolutely minimized as much as humanly possible. I can't personally guarantee how we're going to do the cladding, et cetera, on that cantilever, but I could supply a statement from a construction manager on how we're going to do that and what that methodology is.
Right.
Supplement, I could do that.
And then the neighboring house is not shown on the plan, this plan also. So you're asking us to make a decision to approve a house which is, the foundation is within 4 feet of property line, and the second floor is within a foot and a half of the property line, but you don't show the neighboring house, so we don't have the full impact of what you're trying to do here.
But
And then if you look at, then what's the, you have 13.4 feet of space from the house to the east property line. So, if you move this house even 18 inches over to provide more space, there's still plenty of room for a driveway and parking there, because the driveway's right up against the property line. I'm just thinking there's impact here.
So what
The
number,
neighbors.
if we were seeking approval and you were to give me a number for that side setback, would it be 5 feet?
Well, even if you moved it over 18 inches to the east, now you have 3 feet from the overhang, and then now you have, 5.5 feet for construction to dig and get in there. Plus, where is that neighboring house? How close is that house to the property line?
So we do have the support of that neighbor. If I submitted a methodology letter along with the flood vent
Between them,
plan
see it?
and a guarantee that we're not going to
Little bit of
damage or
space.
interfere with the neighbor's property, is that
Okay.
reasonable?
It's not like they're right on the property line.
My answer to that is that can absolutely be conditioned.
Yeah.
All the information
Should,
isn't here.
yeah, it's not there.
Just everything in context,
Is this really our conservation decision, or is this a building zoning board issue?
Yeah, and I will say, we have experience on the street. That's why both of these people hired us, is because we did such an amazing job on the identical sites, literally the same dimensions. One of the setbacks is 2 feet, and we didn't damage anything adjacent. We are experienced with this.
No, to me, it's just a common sense. You're asking for this commission to grant or order conditions for you to do this project.
Yep.
And all the info isn't there, and things are very too close. If you're gonna dig, you're gonna undermine, okay, you're gonna cause problems if somebody doesn't pay attention, right? It's all sand out there. So I understand that, you're a good contractor and you say you're gonna handle things, but you get heavy rainstorms, you get thunderstorms, whatever, there's erosion. The things happen during construction time when people aren't there.
Sure.
So you look at the project as a whole. Now, Paul just said there's a driveway next door with what shows an aerial boat in the driveway. Okay, so that just answers that question. So there is room on that side.
On the opposite side.
What's
Yeah.
the other side?
Right. But see, if you look at 21, see how close it is with 21? You're right there. I mean, they're inches away. At least you got the width of a boat, and then a little bit of extra space on 25, see it?
Right, right.
But over
So
here, you
that-
don't.
Yeah,
I don't know how you construct that side of the house.
so this is,
Yeah.
So for floodplain jurisdiction, what would you want to see different because of the flood zone?
What now?
I get what you want to see. I'm just wondering,
Right.
because of the flood zone.
well, now it's just an A zone. Yeah, you can build a concrete foundation with flood vents and access panels because it's not in the coastal A. So
Right.
answer that question. And according to the aerial, there's not a house right up against that property line.
On one side there is.
I think there is right here.
Yeah, if you look at the pictures
I
here,
think it is right
you can
here.
see this here. That is
Because that's from the road.
this is the property line, and you can actually see the property line because they literally put gravel line. in the whole.
Looks like a drainage,
So we're
like a
looking
drainage,
right
Yeah.
It's on the
So,
right
but-
side right here.
like a
Okay.
dry, a
So
long,
yes,
narrow
you are
driveway.
correct. It is
Yeah,
very
exactly.
close to that.
Right.
But for flood, I mean, right now we're looking at this because it's in the flood zone.
Yeah.
What do we want to see? We want to see flood vents. We want to see, like, make sure that it's compliant that way, but do we, I'm not saying that we don't care about how it's constructed, but.
Can I make one more comment?
Sure.
If we do X, Y, and Z to meet your requirements for the setback, ZBA is going to be the real challenge with the setbacks, and then we're going to get a different set of requirements. I'd rather just them handle it and decide, because that's the exact issue they're going to be hearing,
Right.
if that makes sense.
You're just moving it closer to the property line than it is now.
I just don't want to do it twice.
I'm just worried about, during a storm event, erosion and things like that. Well, can
believe
can
it wasn't a careless
condition
decision, it
saying
was-
that, bulkhead to be installed to stop any erosion onto the neighboring property during construction?
Right, like
This
that's
is
the
a-
kind of, that kind of thing I would,
A filter sock isn't gonna do much.
Yeah.
I just, you're within 4 feet, you dig for a foundation. I'm just worried about, erosion and cave-ins during a heavy rainstorm.
It's close to the line. So you would be more comfortable with the methodology narrative, and you want to see the foundation plan, the number of vents,
Yeah.
placement of the vents. All right.
Is this, similar to, where we had inside the foundation where we put in the cutouts with the stone, filter water through, same thing.
Yeah. Okay. Nothing else? All right, then. I would ask for a motion, or would you like to request a continuance to provide the construction methodology to relieve the concerns of erosion and provide the foundation plan with the flood vents, the locations, the sizes?
Absolutely happy to do that. It's not possible to provide those as a condition of approval, since I'm not going to change anything.
that's a good question.
Is
that something?
I will
that-
certainly bring it up with the owners about nudging it over. I don't
Right.
think it's going to be 18 inches, because we very finely reviewed these setbacks in-house with the construction team, our experience across the street. We need a certain amount of parking, and this was much deliberation. We did not just slap it on there. It was very finely placed.
So, right, and like, I just Googled how big is like a garage door opening, right? Like a garage doors opening can be anywhere from like 9 feet to 17 feet. So if you have a car parked there and you want to open the doors, you do need some space.
It's exactly enough to open a door 30 inches and walk out of your car without hitting something. Like, it's
Right.
exactly enough.
Right.
If you put it on pylons, then you have more open
Then you have
space.
space underneath to
Yeah.
park.
Yeah. They have space underneath.
I know that if we do move it now, we're gonna go to ZBA, and then that's when this really is the topic of discussion, is the setbacks, et cetera.
So why don't we continue until after you are in front of ZBA?
Oh, we can continue to after ZBA? I thought we had to.
No, because
No, ZBA is definitely not going to be comfortable with that.
If I could request, we have the ZBA, March 12th, I believe. Can we do a continuance before that? So we
You
don't-
could do it to continuance before ZBA. ZBA will
They
tend
won't
to
see
not
it.
make their decision without conservations.
Oh, I just mean if we could have our continuance before the scheduled hearing.
Yeah.
Oh, that we can do. Yeah,
Yeah,
Okay,
'cause we
great.
have a
All right,
meeting-
happy to do that.
We have a meeting on March 6th.
yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, March 6th
happy
is
to-
our next meeting.
Okay,
That
perfect.
would
Thank
give you
you.
time to bring in the plans and the methodology and to relieve your concerns, and then we
Yeah.
could, then we
Okay.
could get the motion.
I'm not against the house, I just,
We want to see it.
And
Yeah, I
one,
need more
one question I
details.
have, one of these, and I've got them a little mixed up. One of them said that you're gonna try to save the existing septic tank?
Yeah, there's a tank, it's this property.
This is the one.
We, pending digging it up and making sure it's okay and it's inspected, we were gonna introduce an IA system, like a sledgehammer system
Right.
into it with a pump. If we can, just to not waste something that's useful.
Right. Is that, it's probably an H10?
Yes, sir.
And do you have a car that's,
Not there. That is
there.
beyond the parking. That will be in the yard.
okay.
And the project you did across the street with the narrow lot, did you have any issues with the collapse over there?
No, it was absolutely surgery getting it done. We had to span over the tank with a beam in the ground, and it was really hard, but we did do it, and it came out very, very similarly sized. And I mean, they're tiny lots. They're so small, so. Yeah, it was hard, but we got it done without issue.
Okay, let's wrap this up then. You're okay to go for a continuance?
On the 6th?
Yeah.
March 6th?
Yes.
Okay.
So let me get a motion for that.
So moved.
Steve?
I'll second.
Go to March 6th to get these documents. No other questions? Roll call vote. Steve?
Yes.
Yes.
Sandy?
Yes.
Rich?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well.
And the next
Let
one.
me open the next one. 25 Wilson's Grove, Clancy Construction, proposed raise of existing dwelling, construct and maintain a new single-family dwelling, IA septic system, landscaping, and hardscaping. Representative of Strong Tree Engineering, owner of record, Sari and Manuel Goiva Trusts. This is a notice of intent, DEP file number 433332. Good evening, sir.
Hello.
Again.
Brian Foley, Clancy Construction, project designer, Strong Trees, connected regularly. We'll walk us
Hello,
through them.
Katerina Torloff for the record from Strong Tree.
Okay, thank you.
I'll just do my summary once more for this site. So for 25 Wilson's Grove, which is eastern adjacent to the last site that we spoke about, this is a similar project, but with a few slight variations. We propose to demolish the existing 1.5-story Cape Cod style house and replace it with a new one. We would also replace the foundation, the deck, and the shed, and the septic system. This is located approximately 150 feet from the beach. Again, we're in the land subject to coastal storm flowage. So we would replace with, the proposed project would be replaced with a newly erected home whose footprint overlaps the current home. The existing leach field will be replaced with a slightly larger leach field. The old septic tank is to be replaced by a new septic tank and to be placed at the slightly different area there at the southwestern area of the property. Again, the proposed IA technology, and again, our nitrogen calcs were within the necessary numbers, 11.86 mg per liter. The footprint of the existing dwelling and deck structures totals 1,280 square feet. The proposed, along with the egress, it totals 1,415 square feet. This would increase the lot coverage from 37.9% to 41.9% for a total increase of 138 square feet in impervious area. And again, a recharge basin will be installed at the north end of the house, and the drive will be regraded with an added cobble apron.
Okay. Brian, is that something you want to add to that?
It's very similar site conditions, almost identical. We have the very similar neighboring house with identical side setback on the water side.
Right.
The septic orientation is different, so the leaching fields weren't right on top of each other between the two projects. I don't really I don't think I have anything else to add, other than it's a permeable driveway. Beneath the deck will be permeable also, beneath the front porch.
Okay.
We are doing some raising to meet the groundwater, I believe, for the septic. Sorry, I'm not an expert on that, but we are raising the backyard somewhat to meet those requirements.
All right.
Flood vents, crawl space.
So, yeah, we have the same issues, really, that are facing us here. I'm looking at an aerial for 29 Wilson's Grove, and it's even closer than 23 would be to 21, at least the angle that I'm looking at it from. So I think there's going to be the same concerns about the construction methodology for not doing any harm to 29. But we don't have the foundation plan for 25 as well, correct?
No, I did not share the flood vent plans. Be happy to do so.
And then the house on number 31 is not shown on the plan in distance there. So,
Yeah, 31 wouldn't be.
I mean, was it?
29.
29, I'm sorry, I used the wrong
Yeah.
number. Yeah, so.
And the septic is going in the rear of 25?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
And I had a question about the septics. You're mounting the septics?
That's a question for Strong Tree.
So a question for Strong Tree. So for Strong Tree, the septics are being mounted. Can you tell me the height the septic is being mounted on this site?
Yes, Matthew Lehman, Strong Tree Engineering. Give me just a sec, please.
Absolutely. And the reason I ask is because both these sites have the same elevations, basically. And from when I last checked, one of the mounds was at like 3.3 feet and one of the mounds was at like 4.5 feet. So I was curious as to why those were different, if they're both at 8-foot elevations on the site.
25 Wilson's Grove is being raised slightly more to bring up the backyard closer to their back sunroom.
Okay.
It just happened to be an added benefit to raising for the septic, so like,
Okay.
let's make it a feature.
I just wanted to make sure it wasn't just an odd thing, so you wouldn't have an odd thing in each yard, but
No.
it was a design factor. I wanted to
That's
make
true.
sure.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's correct.
that's all. So we're good there. Then that was my only question.
And again, I just want to make one more point about moving the house. If I do X, Y, Z to move the house for this board, then I go to ZBA, and they're going to have their own set of conditions for moving the house. And I would just ask that we leave it to the zoning board to determine the setbacks.
And the footprint of this home is slightly larger than the original as well, correct?
It should be less permeable. There's such tight lots, it's all non-conforming, but it is slightly larger. It's an uptick in lot coverage, but it should be an increase in permeability.
It's going from 31.9 to 41.9 lot coverage.
Right. And I did not see any waiver requests for Regulation
I
25.
was just going to bring that up.
Was that part of the packet? I didn't see it.
Neither one, I don't think.
We have, in Regulation 25, we have a setback issue that requires a waiver to be petitioned to the commission to drop that requirement. It's been upheld by legal opinion. We're rewriting 25, but 25 is not ready yet to be promulgated. So as people come in, they've been asking for a waiver for just cause. You know, the house needs to be rebuilt, it's a danger, whatever you want to put in for the justification for that waiver. And most of them, these raising places in land subject to coastal flow that increase the footprint, because the current regulation doesn't allow it. You have to have a setback of 50 feet from land subject to coastal flow, and the whole lot's
Yeah,
land
30,
subject.
35. I
So you need a waiver from that. And
Right.
I didn't see that in either one of these two, so something that. I'm
Strong
sure-
Tree, if you'd care to comment, maybe that's something we can quickly prepare for the follow-up.
For the 6th.
Yes, I can certainly add that, a waiver for both sites, absolutely. I also have one more question.
Sure.
You mentioned on the last site, and I'm sure it's relevant here too, that you might want some sort of a lawn maintenance or landscaping plan. Is that something that you would also need?
Yes.
Yeah, one of the commissioners brought up a question about a landscape plan and to mitigate for the tree that's coming out. I know there's not a lot of area to work with, but
Well,
at
at least
least we'd
just to
know
know
what.
whether they're just leaving it sand
Sure.
or grass or what's
Yep.
left.
Absolutely.
Because it's so small, is that something that could be prepared by the civil engineers with a note instead of a full landscaping plan?
I would think so, sure.
Yeah, it can be done like that, even if it just says like, this is a horticulture bed, this is where a native's going, or whatever, but it can be done like that.
All right, thank you.
Or if it's grass.
So, or if it's grass, or,
hopefully
yeah.
mixed clover would be nice.
Okay.
Going back to what you said, Dan, on the septic systems, on this one, are they both raised systems here? Because I'm not seeing any elevations on it, so that's why you're saying that they're
I
raised?
saw a note in it, in one of in the narrative somewhere, that the septics were going to be raised per Board of Health, and that they were just a different height, but that makes sense, they were design aspects, so.
Yeah, Strong Tree would have the exact number, but they were both slightly raised to meet the groundwater requirement.
So what's are there walls surrounding
I was just-
the septic systems on both properties?
I did not see any.
23 Wilson's, there is no wall proposed. 25 Wilson has a low retaining wall. That is only a necessity in the sense that it's an architectural feature, though. It's not raised enough that it would require the wall.
Oh, I see, okay. So, so I'm seeing an elevation 8 grade on this plan going through. What would the new grade be on top of the septic system?
Katerina, care to comment on that? I'm not totally sure.
Highest finished grade is 8.65.
I'm sorry, what exactly is the question? You're looking at 23 Wilson or 25?
25.
25.
25. And you want to know the grade above the septic system, highest grade? It is 8.80 proposed in the southeast corner.
Okay, that's gonna be mounded system?
What
Okay.
exactly do you mean by mounded?
Well, it looks like you're within 2.8 feet of the property line, so you're starting at elevation 8 at the property line, going up to 8.8 and that 2.8 feet?
It is not mounded above the adjacent lots. It's essentially meeting grade. That 8, you can see the 8 contour that kind of goes right through the middle of the leach field.
Yep.
So the southwest side is a fill, that 8.6. The southeast side is not, it's essentially meeting grade there. 8.8 it's I don't know, it's 8.75 there or something like that now.
Okay.
So the mounding is pretty slight. It's less than a foot, I would say, at the property lines.
Okay.
And the retaining wall is along, it's a little hard to see because the silt sock's in the way, but it starts at the stairs on the top and goes around the septic tank, goes south, and then turns east. And again, that hits that portion where it's sort of tying out to grade, that southeast portion. So there is a wall on the south, sort of hugging the southwest side.
Okay, what's the top of the wall?
It would be flush with grade, essentially, so 8.5.
So, okay, so if you have elevation 8 is that grade, what's the top of the wall again?
8.8?
8.5 or so.
8.5, okay. Okay, so it's just a very low wall.
Yeah, it's small.
correct. Mhm.
Okay, all right, thank you.
You're welcome.
And the neighboring house on the water side is higher in elevation, so it's meant to tie into that.
All right. So we're looking at a similar situation. We would want to see the foundation plan, construction methodology.
And the waivers.
Yeah, waiver.
Right,
La-
so-
Landscape
And landscape.
notes, landscape.
Landscape notes.
Landscape notes. So it sounds like if I come back with the same footprint and the same setbacks, we'd probably have a positive outcome as long as I have those supplemental items. Yeah, but then ZBA might come back and say, no way on the 4 feet, it's too close.
Yeah, ZBA will be your own story, basically. But for the other stuff, I think the commission will entertain that positively, from what I've heard
Well,
tonight.
Yeah,
So,
as long as you have a different method of erosion control during excavation, besides a silt fence or a filter sock.
What would you like to, what would you find, approvable or satisfactory?
Oh, if you had a bulkhead
Yeah.
type of, along the property line when you're excavating, and then you can be removed at backfill, so, and then the filter sock goes in and, and stops the erosion, but, you could have the hole dug and, it could be waiting, a few days or a week for the foundation contractor to show up and you get a heavy thunderstorm, and then next thing you know, everything's caving in. So,
Yeah,
Yeah.
that could be an issue.
And that,
I've seen that happen.
and that can be
That's
included on the construction note, on what you're going to have written? for that?
Absolutely, yeah, I think
Okay.
it'll be good to put that together. And that neighboring house is, I think it's closer to 6 feet away from where we'll be building. Their property line is 4, I think their house is closer to 6 feet.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, we'll include that
Yeah, if you
precisely
do that,
in the
yeah, that'd be
methodology.
great. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
And do you want to go for the same date?
Would love to.
Absolutely.
Yeah, 6 would be great, thank you.
Okay. Is there a motion?
Yeah, so move to continue to
March 6th.
March 6th.
Can I ask one question? Sorry, before we.
Sure.
Thank you. Is there a recording period, or would the decision carry the next day to ZBA? Or is there like a,
Oh, for ZBA?
yeah,
They'll just know that it was approved. They won't see your recording or anything. What happens is I am actively writing comments to them
Yeah.
to update them on our hearings.
Okay.
So literally tomorrow, I'll let them know exactly what happened here.
Okay.
And then they'll know, and then vice versa for the March 6th hearing.
perfect, thank
So,
you.
yeah.
Second on the motion?
Thank you. Rich, motion made and seconded. Further discussion? Hearing none. Steve?
Yes.
Sandy?
Yes.
Rich?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. So we're all set then for the 6th.
Okay, thank you very much.
Great,
Appreciate it.
thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, good night.
Right. The next hearing is for 0 Beach Godfrey Road, Bayberry Village Homeowners Beach Association. This is a proposed vista pruning. Representative is Environmental Landscape Solutions LLC.
You there,
This is
Tyler?
a Notice of intent, DEP file number 433330. Okay.
Environmental Landscape Solutions, representing the applicant, the Bayberry Village Association, for their proposed vista pruning project at 0 Beach Godfrey Road. The site is an undeveloped lot. There is an existing elevated boardwalk, float and walkway. We met with Drew on site in the fall and kind of discussed the area for the proposed corridor would be mostly over that existing elevated boardwalk. Given that there was a 252-foot lot line to the salt marsh, the maximum corridor length would be 50 feet, so we showed that on the plan there. In addition to the vista corridor, there's one leaning juniper over the left-hand side of the boardwalk, and one downed tree that we're proposing for removal. Which we put down at the same time as the vista pruning, and later this spring, we're proposing a 2-to-1 mitigation ratio of serviceberry and eastern red cedar. And the last was just a minor note. While we were on site, there was just some debris, and wanted to clarify that was just trash, and it was actually an existing set of stairs that was removed some years ago. We just wanted to clarify that when we were doing this cleaning, we were gonna do through a track-in, track-out method, just the removal of some trash in the salt marsh area won't have any adverse effect, but just wanted to note that on this plan as well. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Okay, questions on this proposal?
I'm fine.
You good?
Yep.
Rich, Sandy?
Negative.
I didn't have any questions. I'm just looking at a couple of notes here first, hold on. I'm good. Dan, anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, I have a quick question. Tyler, when it comes to the removal of this debris, when you talk to the HOA and all of them, is this debris something that occurs annually or something that occurs every 2 to 3 years, or is this a one-time thing?
So I think it's probably a one-time thing. It's
Okay.
mostly at the base where there were some old steps. There's some pressure-treated timbers that were just never removed. And then over the years, there's been a little bit of like plastic debris. So I would say as part of this application, it would just be the one time, as I mentioned in here, we'd probably do it at the same time as the vista pruning.
Yes.
Any issues in the future, we'd probably note with staff, maybe take some photos and send it to you guys. But I think it's just a lot of years of nobody really going down that area. And when we were on site, I mentioned, hey, if we're going against or going up with the board, you might as well bring this up as well.
Absolutely. Excellent. Yeah, that's all I wanted to hear, just to make sure it was a one-time. If not, then a condition could be made, but it doesn't sound like it's needed. Other than that, this is a very straightforward project. This property came before us 3 years ago now for some work to be done as well. So it's a very actively used area, and they just are asking for a vista permit, so I think it's appropriate.
Okay. Do you want to say something? I thought I saw his phone come on the screen.
Yeah, no additional comment, Paul.
Okay, all right. I'd accept the motion.
Okay, make a motion for closing issue for 0 Beach Godfrey Road. The only condition that the project meets regulation 29 for vista pruning.
Is there a second? Thank you, Sandy. Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Steve?
Yes.
Sandy?
Yes.
Rich?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. So that motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you, Tyler.
Thank you all. Good night.
You as well. Okay. I'm going to hold on a second till Steve comes back in the room. Oh, okay.
Okay, so we should be good then.
Okay.
Yeah, we should. Okay.
I first time up to make sure I had a quorum.
Sweating for a second.
Dropping my flag.
Always good to have a quorum.
Oh, my goodness. Yes, and Tyler Franklin is online.
Tyler,
Right.
okay. Yeah. Here he comes. I wanted to wait until you return to make sure I had a quorum to open this next one up. Okay. Our next hearing is 425 Monomoskoye Road, Mark H. and Lisa White. This is a proposed raise and replace of a single-family dwelling, deck, boathouse, driveway, Title V septic system, landscaping, utilities, and associated appurtenances. Representative is Cape and Islands Engineering. This is a notice of intent, DEP file number 433269, continued from 2/15, 3/21, 4/18, and 5/9/24. Okay. Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
If we can just have your name for the record, so we know who we're talking with, and we can begin.
Sure, Tyler Franklin, on behalf of the applicants.
Okay.
I'm generally confused as to what we're, there's an agreement for judgment that the parties entered into. It's been filed, it's in order
So I don't have any other further comments when the parties negotiated the terms of the order of conditions.
Okay, I wanted to give you the opportunity to speak because you were
Yeah,
here.
I
so
don't have anything to say, I'm just hoping
Okay.
that you guys
Okay, great.
issue it so we can move forward with the project.
Okay, so in your packets, we do have a draft order of conditions for this project. And as you know, we've been back and forth with the applicant to come to an agreement that's not only acceptable to the applicant, but to the commission and to the courts as well. And we have reached that junction. So if there are any questions on the draft order that you've reviewed, this would be the time to bring those up for any type of comment or question or discussion. And I would then take a motion. So if there's anything that anyone would like to,
I'll just say one thing.
yes.
Just for the motion, just ensure that it is for bylaw only. That's the only thing I'm going to say.
Right, there is a superseding order on the state level, so this is just for the bylaw. Okay? I know we spent a lot of time going back and forth, and I think both sides came up with the best possible solution to the construction of this new home, and hopefully it works out well for everyone. So I would accept a motion for the draft order of conditions that we have.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, make a motion for 425 Monomoy Square Road. Is it going to be to close an issue, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
This is for the bylaw order of conditions only for a closed issue.
Yeah, okay. Close an issue for the bylaw,
Okay.
based on the bylaw only, right?
Yes.
Do we have to mention the agreement for a judgment? No. No. Okay.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Sandy. Any further discussion amongst commissioners? We're all set? I'm sure you've read this several times, and we had a lot of meetings about it, so I think we should be okay to go. All right, I'll take a roll call vote. Steve?
Yes.
Sandy?
Yes.
Rich?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. So that motion carries, and we'll issue the order promptly.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Let me back up.
Actually, it's kind of quick through. That was a big list.
Seems like a
Probably not
long
too
night
bad.
to me.
3 hours, yeah.
Let's go through this as quick as we can. We have an approval for the draft set of minutes for 12/12/24 executive session. Eligible to vote on those would be myself, Steve, Sandy, Sarah, she's not here, Neil, and Shauna, because you guys were there in that, but if we
I'm
have,
not here either.
Rich was not in that, right? So
Right.
I would need 1, 2, 3, I would need either Neil or Shauna,
Neil or Sean, yep.
so that I have 4 votes. Do you have a chance to look at those minutes? We're all set on that?
I'll defer to you because
You
I
do?
actually didn't read them, so.
Okay.
Sure.
You're all set with that, Neil?
Yes.
Okay. So I would accept a motion.
So moved.
Thank you, Steve. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Sandy. Motion made and seconded to accept these minutes as presented. No further questions or comments? I'll take a vote. Steve?
Yes.
Neil?
Yes.
Sandy?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well, so those are accepted. Under discussion, water quality issues and initiatives, ongoing discussion item. Is there any pressing issues that need to be brought up at this late hour? Good? Okay. I'm going to skip over 25 for a second, and this next discussion item, Pompanesett Beach Association Vista Pruning, they've asked to defer to a later date.
Yes.
This information.
So they have asked, I believe, for the March 6th to come and give a discussion then, just for a very, very brief overview. This is around Dean's Pond, I believe, and there's a lot of homeowners that want to do vista pruning there. and they would like to have a discussion about the possibility of doing it as a group. I don't want to say an association, but as a group of houses, you know, every house around the pond or whatever houses it may be. So that's something to take
No,
into.
it would be an association, Dan, not a group of houses. That's their intent.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah,
So.
yeah, but I wouldn't get too much into it because they're not here tonight, so.
Sure,
If
yep.
they want to request a March 6th.
Yep.
Yeah.
So- And that'll be for informational purposes.
Informational purposes only in pathway discussions, that's all.
Yeah.
Not going to make any
3 minutes?
commitments or
So I hope.
additions, okay. Going back a bit here to Regulation 25, Performance Standards Draft 7. We do have Regulation 25 that's been returned by legal counsel. We went through that yesterday or 2 days ago, I forget now. Yesterday, in Bylaw Review Subcommittee. A lot of what's in 25 came back with very little comment whatsoever. There were some concerns that were brought up by legal counsel. We discussed those at length in subcommittee, and we're going to get this document out to all of you so that you can read the comments from legal, and we'll put that on the March 6th agenda for final comments to either accept it as a final draft and move along in the process, or if there's not enough people in the commission that feel comfortable with that, then we'll have to do a little bit more work. But coming out of subcommittee yesterday, I think the three of us felt very good about what we had. We made a few little insignificant changes in grammar and that kind of stuff, but it's looking pretty good. So that'll go out to everybody tomorrow, I believe, right? We
Yep,
get
yep.
that out?
It goes out tomorrow. It can be on the March 6th, or next week is the quarterly as well. So it could be on either one. If you want more than a week to review it, then March 6th definitely is.
No, I'd do it on the quarterly.
Yeah,
Because
that
March
would
6th looks like it's going to be busy.
Yeah,
So
Yeah,
the
we can do
quarterly
that.
agenda's not done yet, so that can absolutely be
right.
discussed.
Yeah, I've got some things that
Yeah.
commissioners have sent me I need to send in.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think the quarterly would be, give us a little more time to.
Okay, updates. I'm going to turn those over to you, Dan.
So updates right now, we don't really have too many. Mashpee River Restoration, we have a public scoping meeting coming up. So if you know anyone, feel free. That's on April 5th. That's from 9 to noon at the Wampanoag Government Center. Sorry, my Boston accent came out. If you know anyone, please encourage them to go. This is for support for the Mashpee River, for any group, any individuals that want to support it or assist with the not assist with the restoration, but assist with the public outreach for it. So that is really the only one. The other two, we are still in the discussion phases. And that's really all I can say to that right now, so.
Also, the Upper Quashnet and Red Brook are gonna be part of that, Saturday, April 5th. So this is like
Oh, they are. Oh, perfect.
reaching out to the public, getting scoping and feedback, stakeholders and whatnot, for all three projects. So Red Brook, Upper Quashnet, and Upper Mashpee River.
River Palooza.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very
And
much
we do
needed.
highly encourage, everyone to attend that. We as staff will be there, have a booth set up to explain, what's happening with the Upper Quashnet and Red Brook and the Upper Mashpee River. So it'll be kind of like a public outreach session, so everyone is encouraged to attend.
And I'm sorry, I was signing papers. What was the date on that?
April
April
5th.
5th,
April 5th.
9 to noon.
That's right here on our.
There'll be
sheet.
coffee.
Okay.
And then herring season's coming upon us, so you'll see signs around town for assistance with herring counting. If anyone wants to volunteer, tell them to contact me. If you want to volunteer, just contact me. So that's about it. This year, we're expecting a very nice turnout for some of the herring, and we're hoping that Santuit Pond has the fix installed by then. So fingers crossed on that. But that is really it for updates. The only other one's really Chop Shake. That's pretty much done. If you wanted to go over and take a look at it, it's a big mud hole right now, and it'll give you a really good perspective once you see it in the middle of the spring, how it changes so drastically, very quickly.
Yeah,
So
that'll-
that's it.
Great. Okay. No other communications or correspondence? Any additional topics that anyone has?
I might withdraw my request for the as I sent you that email, and then I wandered downstairs, my husband was looking at the sewers last commission, and I don't think they've gotten very far to,
Right, yeah,
so I
it
don't
would have been
think
easy to, somebody might bring it up anyways.
Okay.
We can talk a little bit
Okay.
about it. As far as your other question about freshwater ponds,
yeah.
there's a lot of information that I can bring in
Okay,
for
cool.
that. Yep. Okay,
Oh,
then.
I will forward the brand-new freshwater ponds buffer guide. It's 156 pages of amazingness. But it is from, I can't remember if it's Cape Cod Commission or one of the other ones, but that just came out, so I can send that out for freshwater. It is extremely good.
Great.
It really is.
Great, that'd be helpful. Terrific. Okay, then, I would accept a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you, Steve.
Second.
Thank you, Sandy. Any objections? Let me take a vote on that. Steve?
Yes.
Sandy?
Yes.
Rich?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. So we are adjourned at 10:10.
Like it.